make sure. Feels like we're gonna. Hopefully, we have a good day and this doesn't mess up. Please, be nice if you could just be consistent today. All right. Well, we know we're gonna start, so we probably should go to them. Just gotta make sure. What? Oh nah. Am I drunk? Yeah, I'm drunk. All right, there we go. Just gotta make sure that's up. All right. See. I actually want to look at this. Let's see. 29 is. Oh, wow. One game. One game, which was a weird one. And they had that. Okay, you know what? Yeah, we could work with this. Yep. Yep. This is exactly what I was looking for. Yep. Let me actually check out. We're gonna need this. I could probably go. Yeah, I can do. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we can do that. Let's actually see. If this actually does benefit, but you know, if we're talking about total, yeah. If we're talking about rushing, wow. This is actually interesting. Just looking at this, interesting right now. I'm surprised we're at 3 and yet we don't lean on this. This is interesting. We're at number 3. We don't lean on this. That's just bad on our side. But then you take a look at the other side. Let's take a look at this other side here and you see, yeah, number 1, and then you see, look at that. Look at that. And surprise, ooh, right there, number 4. Total yards, and then you get the passing, and you see, it's right there. Mama right. Huh, they actually do good in not giving up a lot of passing yards. Actually, they don't do too bad. We're one of the worst. Good lord. It's, yeah, that's the problem. They can't. Mmm. Mmm. That's their problem. That's gonna beat them. And oof. That's where I can see it. And then they're right there. Oh man, we got a few things. 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 Okay. I'm getting ready to start this soon. I am just doing some basic setups. What's going on, man? Appreciate you stopping by. We are getting ready to start this soon. Well, I'm not gonna say start this soon, but we're getting ready to start this. Just got a few things I gotta do here, and I'm checking a couple things here because this is actually interesting. This is interesting. I didn't realize this. Interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Their weakness is through the air. But then when it comes to rushing, okay, this actually works. And then when it comes to points, okay, this is where things can get interesting. What? Dog, that's crazy. That is crazy. All right. What's going on, everybody? Getting some people coming in the chat. We are going to be having a discussion today. I told you guys this earlier. We are going to have a discussion about the playoff race for all playoff teams. I am just getting a few things set up here, of course, because we have a discussion. Because we're not just here to talk about the Ravens. Obviously, that's pretty much all we talk about. Everybody that pretty much follows me is a Ravens fan, for the most part. But, you know, we do like to branch off. And I think with the AFC being the way it is, and honestly with everything being the way it is right now, I feel like this would be a perfect opportunity to take a look at all the teams right now that are currently in the playoff race and actually speak on their chances of going on a run and making the Super Bowl, if not winning it. I think everybody in the race, there is an argument for them to be made in regards to them potentially going the distance. There are some that have really strong arguments, and there are some that have virtually no arguments. But the possibility is still there. And as long as the possibility is there, you can, at the very least, have a conversation and a discussion about it. So we are going to talk about it because right now, in terms of the playoff race, I'm glad I waited till today. The Miami Dolphins lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers yesterday, so they are officially eliminated from playoff contention. They were eliminated. So with that being said, oh, this got to be fixed. I'm surprised you still like. Hold on. Let's do that. There we go. With that being said, we have 19 teams that are still in the playoff picture. Even if it's minute, there are still teams left in the playoff picture, and we must speak on them. Now, if you ask me personally, the playoff picture is virtually done. There's maybe 2 spots. If maybe 2 or 3 spots we can actively look at and say, yeah, there's still life there and could potentially, change depending on how things go. So we have to see how that is going to look. But virtually, the playoffs are pretty much set. Especially in the AFC. There is nothing. When you get into this AFC look, it's over. It's essentially over. There's 1 spot in the AFC and maybe 2 spots. There's 1 spot in the AFC and there's 2 spots. Yeah, Carlos, we will probably we'll dive into that a little bit here. We're going to focus on every team, but we'll dive into that. And yes, I know what you mean in terms of meaningless. Essentially, it's a meaningless game because it has no impact on clinching scenarios for the playoffs, and essentially both teams will have to play that Week 18 matchup no matter what. So, winning or losing that game does not change your chances. I know in terms of the scenario you're talking about, yes, that Week 17 game for both teams would essentially be meaningless, but you would still play that game, at the end of the day. It won't have any effect in terms of who's going to clinch the AFC North, but yeah, it's still a game that would have to be played, and it would be viewed as somewhat meaningless, but it's still a game that you can use, especially against the team that would be, especially for the Ravens. But we'll get into that whole aspect later as we talk about these playoff scenarios and situations. So we are here today to actually discuss every team's chances to make the playoffs and then go the distance. So I think the best way for us to start off is by looking at the AFC because the AFC is basically over. The AFC set. Essentially, there's 1 spot left and we all know it. So we'll speak on the AFC. Those teams are essentially all in except 1 spot, and we'll speak on each team. So we won't really have to talk about playoff scenarios for pretty much all the teams in the AFC. We get to talk about their chances to go the distance. So yeah, let's actually get into that. I don't want to waste any more time. It's going to be a long discussion. We're going to be here for a while. So I would like to be able to get my takes out on all the teams that are in the playoff race still technically because there's 19 teams in the playoff race. Technically, there's 17 teams that are left in the playoff race. 2 teams have officially clinched. That would be the Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Rams. There are 17 teams that are left in the playoff race. Essentially 14 of them are pretty much set. There's
2 or 3 spots left if you really want to look at it. But pretty much 2 teams have already guaranteed themselves in the postseason. They've clinched their ticket to the playoffs. The Broncos, I believe, might have clinched the division, but I think the Chargers are 10-4 and the Broncos are 12-2. No, I don't. The Broncos have not clinched the AFC West just yet because the Chargers beat the Broncos head to head. So, yeah, they haven't faced off a second time yet. So that's still open up here. Yeah, the Broncos and Chargers will face off to end the season, and depending on how things go for the Broncos and the Chargers. Looking at this, they got Jacksonville next week, and the Chargers could potentially still be in the race for the AFC West divisional crown. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But Denver has already clinched a playoff spot, and they are very close to clinching a divisional spot too. And they are very close to, well, not immensely close, but they do have a lead now on New England for the number 1 seed. Based on how things are going, there's a high chance Denver is going to be the number 1 seeded team in the AFC this year. They will be the ones that will have the playoffs run through them. So you'll have to go through Denver to move forward in the AFC. We'll have to see how that goes. So, yeah, let's start off with the AFC here. I don't want to waste too much time because we got a lot to discuss. We're talking about all these teams, so we can't keep dilly-dallying. We're going to be discussing a lot of teams and then, saying our piece about them and then going from there. So I would like to get this out the way as quickly as possible. So let's start off with the AFC here for this conversation. We're going to start off with the team that has already clinched a playoff spot, that has the number 1 seeded, the number 1 seed spot. Whoa, what's this for a second? I can deal with that later. I don't know what this is about. I just got a message for something. My notification popped up. No, I can deal with that later. That is not serious. So, yeah, let's take this time to first start things off with the Denver Broncos, the team that is currently in the playoffs, the team that has clinched the playoff spot, the team that currently resides as the number 1 seed in the AFC. We're going to talk about the Denver Broncos. Now, the Denver Broncos have already clinched the playoff spot. There is not much to talk about playoff scenarios for them or seeding. Well, there's a little to talk about seeding because they have not clinched the number 1 spot yet. But they are in the playoffs. Depending on how things go, they may not be the number 1 seed if things don't go their way. But it seems like essentially they just have to win out maybe 2 more of their final 3 games, and they're clinching the number 1 seed in the AFC, and they'll have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. So we'll just talk about them being in the playoffs, and we'll talk about their chances there. So let's start with Denver. Denver has been a great team this year. I don't think there is any issue or there's anything you could say about this team that you can look at and say, oh, there's a serious issue with this team that could stop them from winning a championship. From top to bottom, I feel Denver is the most complete team in this conference. Denver is the most complete team in this conference, and they have played like the most complete team in this conference throughout the year. Now, there are a little bit of hiccups here and there that you get with a Bo Nix, but honestly, Bo Nix this year hasn't popped off the screen enough to where you would be like, oh yeah, he's legitimately in the MVP conversation. But Bo Nix is still having a good season. Bo Nix, over 3,200 yards passing, 23 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. He's got a passer rating of 90. He's got a passer rating of 89 this year. Interesting. I did not realize his passer rating was 89 this year. Yeah, he's completing nearly 64% of his pass, 63.5, but close to 64%, 3,200 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, passer rating at 89, and the QBR of 59. Not the best in the world, but I think Bo Nix has played well enough to where you can look at this team and say they can get it done as long as he can be consistent. And I think that's the main aspect that we have to discuss when it comes to the Denver Broncos. I think the Denver Broncos are the most complete team in the AFC. I feel they're the best team in the AFC from top to bottom. They've got weapons on that offense, serious weapons on that offense. They've got one of the best defenses in football. In fact, their defense this year has given up one game over 30 points. Their defense has given up one 30-plus point performance this season. One game where they have given up 30-plus points. And that was a weird game that they played with the Giants. And in that game against the Giants, they came back in the fourth quarter down 3 scores and won the game. So the only game in which the defense, for some reason, was just not on their stuff that day, they came back and won. They get the most this Broncos defense has given up is essentially that 32-point, that 1-point win against the Giants where they gave up 32 and they won 33-32. Other than that, this is what their defense has done. Win or loss, it don't really matter. They gave up 12 to the Titans, 29 to the Colts, 23 to the Chargers, 3 points to the Bengals, 17 points to the Eagles, 11 points to the Jets, 32 to the Giants, 24 to the Cowboys, 15 to the Texans, 7 to the Raiders, 19 to the Chiefs, 26 to the Commanders, 17 to the Raiders, and 26 to the Packers. Again, this defense has played as well as any defense could play in the league. If we're going to talk about defensive ratings, overall, when you look at the Broncos defense, they're a top 10 defense for sure. And we're talking about the Broncos defense here, they're a top 10 defense for sure. In fact, let's look. In terms of total yards, they rank, what, 5th? Yeah, in terms of total yards from the defense. So in terms of total defense, Denver ranks 5th in total defense. They rank, let's see. They rank 5th in total defense, 11 in pass yards given up a game. They're number 2 in rushing yards given up a game, and they are number 3 in points given up a game. From top to bottom, they're a consistently great defense. Overall, this is a top 5 defense. So Denver has a top 5 defense. Denver's had a top 5 defense. They have played well throughout the year. Now, offensively, honestly, they are kind of, they are relatively around the top 10. In terms of total offense, the Broncos offense ranks 11 in terms of total offense. In terms of passing yards, they also rank 11. And in terms of rushing yards, they rank, actually at the bottom. They don't run the ball as efficiently as they should. So this isn't a team that runs the ball at a high scope. This isn't a team that runs the ball at a high scope. They're really led by their passing attack, but they do still effectively run the ball. They're around middle of the row. I think they're around, 15, 16? They're 17th. So they're 17th in rushing yards, in total rushing yards this year. They're 11th in total in passing yards this year, and they're 11th in total offense. In terms of points per game, the Broncos average about 20. Yeah, they average about 24 points a game. So the Broncos average about 24 points a game. That's not the worst in the world. They ranked what? Within the top 12? Yeah, they're 12. So overall, offensively, they're just outside the top 10, around 11, 12-ish. In total offense and in passing offense, they're 11th. In terms of rushing offense, they're around 17. In terms of points scored per game, it's around 24. They're around 12. So overall, they're a top 12 to 15 offense, and they've got a top 5 defense. So that's well enough as an attack. From a balance perspective, they're balanced enough to where you could look at the Broncos and say they could score at a relatively high clip and they can make stops at a relatively high clip, which is going to be very beneficial for them in a conference that does have a lot of firepower. But overall, when you look at this Broncos team, I think they just play well as a unit, and they do play complete as a team. And you take a look at this as well. You look at some of the wins they have. They beat Philadelphia. That's huge. They beat the Texans. They beat the Packers last week. They do have some impressive wins. However, a concern here that you would want to be able to put up is the fact that they won these games, but they put up 13 points against the Jets. They put up 10 points against the Raiders. Those were wins. When they were at home, against the Raiders, they put up 10 points of offense and won 10-7. When they were at home against the Jets, they put up 13 points at home. So if there's any element you would want to look at and have a concern with, it would have to be that. You would have to sit back and say, okay, this offense can score at a relatively high pace, and their defense is definitely elite. It's a top 5 defense for a reason. But the fact is, they have moments offensively where they just don't score well, especially when they go up against good defenses. The Jets have a good defense. So, it's not the worst thing in the world to have 13 points. However, only putting up 10 points, your defense gives up 7 to the Raiders, who are a bad football team, and you only put up 10 points of offense against them, that would be a concerning look. I will not lie to you. I like Denver as a team. I feel like they are the best overall team from a balance perspective. But I do have some concerns about this team, mainly when it comes to Bo Nix. I think that's where my wild card is, and that's where my main concern is. I haven't gotten a lot of consistency from Bo Nix, and I feel that lack of consistency could ultimately hurt these guys' chances to get to where they want to get to, i.e. the Super Bowl, and hopefully win a championship. Bo Nix has to be more consistent. He has to be more consistent in order for us to trust him. But he has not been consistent enough at times, and it has been a clear concern. I want Bo Nix to be more consistent. He's having a good year, but there's times where we're not seeing the consistency from Bo Nix. And without that consistency, it is a bit scary to talk about this team's Super Bowl chance. I think this is a great team. I think this is the team that we should look at and say, from a team perspective, from top to bottom, this is the team to beat in the AFC right now. But you cannot ignore the fact that there are some concerns when it comes to Bo Nix. There are some concerns when it comes to Bo Nix. He had the best game of his career. He had that last week against the Green Bay Packers. That was the best game of his career. No question. You take a look at how he played against Las Vegas in the 2 games, and he wasn't impressive. The first game against the Raiders, he threw 2 picks. He was awful. The second matchup, they won that game 10-7. The second matchup against Las Vegas, they won that game. He wasn't bad. He wasn't terrible, but he didn't do much of anything. He completed 81% of his passes. That's great for 212 yards. So there was a lot of dinking and dunking. No touchdowns, no picks. It's not the best of performances. Against Kansas City, he didn't throw a pick, but he didn't throw a touchdown. Against Washington, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Against Houston, they won that game. He had 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. There's a lot of games where you're looking at Bo Nix and you're not seeing a lot. And some of these completion percentages from 54 to 48, 57, there's some issues with the level of consistency that you would want to see from Bo Nix. That's where my overall concerns come in for the Denver Broncos. I believe this is the team to beat in the AFC, and I think this is the team that I personally see going to the Super Bowl from a team perspective, because I've always been huge on the aspect of team, especially when it comes to the playoffs. It takes a team to get to the Super Bowl. It takes a team to win the championship. I trust the defense. I believe in the defense. I love what I'm seeing from the defense. They have the offensive weapons, but Bo Nix has to be consistent. If I don't see that level of consistency from Bo Nix, I can't see them going the distance. So I think it comes down to the quarterback. This is one of those situations where it 100% comes down to the quarterback. If Bo Nix can be consistent, you have a shot. Last week against Green Bay, that was the best performance of his career. No question. Up until this point, best performance of his career. Not even close. 4 touchdowns, no picks, passer rating of nearly 135, QBR of 88. Best performance of his career. It doesn't even come close. And that was against a playoff team that is also fighting for their division. So Yeah, I give him credit for putting up his best performance against Green Bay's defense, which is a pretty good defense as well. But there's just a lot of games here, even though they're winning them, there's a lot of games where you're taking a look at what Bo Nix is doing, and you're wondering, how are they winning these games? And you look at the final score, and you're realizing this defense is doing a heavy carry job specifically because Bo Nix is not playing well. He's turning the ball over a bit too much. The offense can't get going. So, yeah, the offense is a top 12 to 15 offense, and they got a top 5 defense. This team is good enough to go win the Super Bowl. The question is, will Bo Nix be consistent enough for you to trust and believe they can get it done? I trust the team. I believe in the team. I feel this is the team that could go to the Super Bowl. In fact, this is my Super Bowl pick if everyone can stay healthy. But I don't feel comfortable with Bo Nix right now. And that's where I have my concerns because I don't like the inconsistencies I've seen from him this year. And that's what's stopping me from fully buying in. Even though I feel like this is the team that can get there and that's my pick. I've been saying it the last month because of what I've been seeing the team do. I still have concerns about Bo Nix specifically. So Denver, number 1 seeded team. They have a very strong chance of winning their division and claiming the number 1 seed and having home field advantage for the AFC. I hope they use that to the best of their abilities, and I need to see more consistency. But other than that, I look at this team and say they're the team that's going to get to the Super Bowl. That's just how I view it. Next up, we have the 2-seeded New England Patriots. Now, the Patriots are actually coming off of a very, very embarrassing loss. I mean, they choked. There's nothing else that needs to be said. They had a 21-point lead against the Buffalo Bills. They had an opportunity to make a huge statement to show Buffalo, your time's up. It's our turn now. We back. We let you have the division for 5 years. We back now. We are back. Nothing else that needs to be said. We back. We back. We are back. And then they proceeded to blow a 21-point lead. The defense gave up 5 straight touchdown drives to Josh Allen and James Cook. I don't see how you end up doing that. And that ultimately killed everything off. But, it is what it is. That's the third loss they've suffered this year. You hope they learn from it. Because the Patriots, again, they're having an amazing year. The number 2 seeded team. They're fighting with the Denver Broncos for the number 1 seeded team. For the number 1 spot in the AFC. They want to get that number 1 seed, get home field advantage. Yeah, they're fighting for that. The Patriots are fighting for that number 1 spot. But most importantly, they are fighting for the division because that loss to the Bills now opens up the door for Buffalo to potentially steal the division if things go their way. New England, of course, has to come down to Baltimore on Sunday night to play the Ravens. We'll see how that goes. But the door is open for Buffalo to steal and reclaim this division. The Patriots can't afford that. But we'll see how that goes. Anyway, as of right now, they are the 2-seeded team in the AFC. Their playoff chances, of course, is 99. They're going to make the playoffs. There's no shot they miss the postseason. They're essentially in. We're just playing random scenarios where somehow something changes. The only thing at this point can change is their playoff seeding because they are 11-3, and you got the AFC South that has a 10-4 Jaguars team and a 9-5 Texans team. So playoff seeding is the only one that could potentially change here for the Patriots if they don't get that number 1 seed, which Denver is in first place right now. So I don't see the Patriots falling below to the 2 seed, but the possibility is there with the Jaguars right behind them. So we'll see how that goes. But as for the New England Patriots, I think they have a very strong chance to get to the Super Bowl this year as well. Denver's my pick. I think they have the best chance, but I do like what I've been seeing from the New England Patriots. Taking a look at this offense here, in terms of the Patriots offense, they actually rank, wow. The Patriots rank 6th in total offense. They rank 6th in total offense. They're ranked actually relatively, let me see. I might actually be looking at this wrong way. Wow, yeah. They rank 6th in total yards. They're 5th in passing yards this year. And in terms of rushing yards, they actually do dip here. Wow, they dip quite a bit. Yeah, they do. So in terms of total yards, they rank fifth. They ranked sixth in total yards, fifth in passing yards, and 12th in rushing yards. And then in terms of scoring, they have the seventh best scoring offense in the league. They're averaging 28 points a game. So they've got a top 10 offense. The New England Patriots have a top 10 offense. From a defensive standpoint here, let's look. The Patriots also have a top 10 defense. They rank 7th in total yards given up. So they're the 7th best defense in the league. In terms of passing yards, they rank, wow. They ranked 15 in passing yards given up. In terms of rushing yards given up, they actually rank 5th. So they're a really good run defense and a subpar, middle-of-the-road passing defense. Though I will have to say this, though. They started off the defense being able to stop the run. Since like week 8 or week 9, the Patriots have not been a good run defense. I don't know what's been going on with them. They were able to stop the run early on in the season. Now they've been unable to stop the run. So I have some questions about their run defense. And their defense as a whole, they're a top 10 defense. They got a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense, but there's some issues with that running defense. They're middle of the road when it comes to defending the pass. And overall, in terms of defense here for points, they're within the top 10 as well. They're actually 7th. They average giving up about 20 points a game. So they average giving about 20 points a game. By the way, Denver averages 18.6 points given up a game, and the Patriots average 19.7. So that also plays a role there. Also, in terms of takeaways, Denver is actually kind of middle of the road. Denver has created 12 takeaways. New England's actually been better at creating takeaways, but just by 2. They've created 14 takeaways. That's actually pretty interesting here in terms of how that's working. Oh, wait. Yeah. The Patriots have actually been better at taking the ball away. Just a little bit better at creating turnovers than the Broncos have. Broncos got the better defense, but the Patriots defensive unit has been a little bit better in creating turnovers here. So that actually does kind of play a role in what could potentially happen between these two teams if they were to meet in an AFC Championship game. But again, they have a top 10 offense. They've got a top 10 defense. The Patriots have all the tools that are needed. They have all the tools that are needed to go on a Super Bowl run. I think this team has a very strong chance to make the Super Bowl. Their biggest threat is, of course, Denver, but they also have another threat that's within their division that has the capability of beating them and showcase they have the capability of beating them. I think the Patriots are a very, 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 very great team, and they fully deserve all the praise and credit they're getting. And they deserve probably even more praise and credit than what they're getting right now. This team can go the distance. This team can go the distance and make the Super Bowl this year. The likelihood of that is relatively high, but I don't know if I trust them more than I trust Denver. However, I will say this, their numbers are similar, but I trust Drake May a little bit more here. Taking a look at the stats, it's not that much different. With Bo Nix, it's 23 touchdowns and 9 interceptions and a QBR of 59. For Drake May, it is 3,500 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, a QBR of 71.2, and a passer rating of 109. Yeah, he's got a passer rating of 109 this year. I mean, he's been playing at a high level. That's why he's been in the MVP race. Not as many touchdown passes that you would expect, but Drake May has been playing well, and he's actually shown more consistency this year than Bo Nix. I think he's been a little bit more consistent, which is why you see the efficiency. He's been more efficient. He's completing 70% of his passes. So Drake May has been more efficient. He's got a better passer rating and QBR. He has less turnovers than a Bo Nix. So I think from a quarterback position, I think Drake May has been the more consistent quarterback. He's been a more consistent quarterback than Bo Nix, which is why I would have some concerns revolving the Broncos, because Bo Nix's inconsistencies at times can be problematic. Now, we talked about the Broncos defense not giving up 30 points. Let me actually take a look and see what the Patriots defense was able to do here. Obviously, they gave up 35 to the Bills, but let's actually take a look at what this defense has been able to do. Let's look at what they were able to score versus what they gave up. Like I said, they're a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. So that is a good aspect here for it. The Patriots have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense, just league-wide based on it. Now, if you actually take a look at who the Patriots have beaten, that's where the concerns come in. I have some issues with the consistency that I'm seeing from Bo Nix, and that offense, they have a top 12 to 15 offense. The Patriots have a better offense than the Broncos, and the quarterback in Drake May has been more consistent than the quarterback in Bo Nix, but it's not too much of a difference. However, here's the difference. We talked about Denver having some impressive wins. You take a look at who the Patriots have beaten this year. They gave up 27 to the Dolphins and beat them 33-27. They beat the Panthers. They beat the Bills in that 23-20 matchup, so good on them. They've beaten the Saints. They've beaten the Titans. They've beaten the Browns. They've beaten the Falcons. They've beaten the Buccaneers. They've beaten the Jets. They beat the Bengals. They beat the Giants. They've lost the Bills. The Patriots have not played against tough teams this year. You can say whatever you want about Denver not having all the aspects. Denver has played against good teams this year. They have played against playoff teams this year. And Denver beat Philadelphia this year. They've beaten playoff teams. The only playoff team they've beaten on this list is Buffalo. The Dolphins are not a playoff team. They're eliminated. Panthers, we don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. Right now, they're not in. Saints, not a playoff team. Titans, not a playoff team. Browns, not a playoff team. Falcons, not a playoff team. Buccaneers, not a playoff team. Jets, not a playoff team. Bengals, not a playoff team. Giants, not a playoff team. The other team that they were able to beat early on in the season by 3, they blew a 21-point lead to. And guess what they've got right now? Coming up this week. They've got the Ravens. The Ravens, as of right now, is not a playoff team. Denver has beaten playoff teams. The Patriots only have one win against the playoff team, and they got one win against a team that's over 500 right now on this list. Some of these guys are going to be at the top of the draft, and that's who they've beaten. So that's where my concerns come in for the Patriots. They haven't beaten anybody significant. That's a concern. Where are these high-caliber matchups? Again, you play who you play. The schedule is the schedule, but the Patriots have not beaten anybody impressive. The Broncos have. That's why I lean more towards Denver as a team. Denver has faced off against tougher competition, and they've been able to win those matchups. What can I look at here? Going back, looking at Denver's schedule in terms of who they beat, Denver beat the Packers and beat the Eagles. Those are, matter of fact, let me see. They beat the Packers. They beat the Eagles and beat the Packers. I can give you at least 2 of those. I'm not saying the Broncos have also beaten world beaters, because they also beat the Titans and the Bengals and the Jets and the Giants. They also beat those teams. But I forgot about this. They beat the Texans. So they've beaten the Texans, they've beaten the Packers last week, and they beat the Eagles. They've beaten 3 playoff teams this year. They've beaten 3 playoff teams. The Patriots have not beaten any quality teams other than the Bills early on. So based off of what we're seeing, I can lean a little bit more, because my pick is Denver. I can lean a little bit more towards Denver because Denver's been more battle tested, and they have beaten playoff teams. They beat the Philadelphia Eagles. They beat the Green Bay Packers. They beat the Houston Texans. And those are all great defenses that they beat. So they have those marks. They have those scars. They are battle tested, and they have that. So I can lean a little bit more. That's why I'm putting Denver over New England. And Denver is my pick right now to get to the Super Bowl, mainly because of that defense. But also, they've beaten some top-tier teams or some playoff teams this year. I haven't seen it from New England. They haven't beaten us. They've beaten one team over 500 this year. One. They have beaten one team over 500 this year. One. The Broncos have beaten 3 teams over 500. That matters. So I think the Patriots, again, I like the team. I think they've got a great chance to go the distance in a wide open AFC, but I don't see them beating Denver. And honestly, I don't know if they beat that other team in their division. We'll get to them. But I don't know if the Patriots can go the distance against 2 teams. I think there's 2 teams that can absolutely beat the Patriots for sure. We're going to find out Sunday night how they fare against the Ravens, especially if the Ravens are on the rise and find a way to sneak into the playoffs. But right now, Denver would beat the Patriots in the playoffs. And I don't know how this team would do against Buffalo in a third matchup because they choked the 21-point lead. So that's where my concerns come in with the Patriots. I think they got a great chance to make the Super Bowl. They do. But I wouldn't put them over Denver, and I'm not fully sure you could put them over the Buffalo Bills right now. So that's where the concerns come in. That is legitimately where the concerns come in. So that is the number 2 seeded team right now in the AFC. I think the Broncos are the team to beat because it's wide open. That's my pick to go to the Super Bowl. And then when you take a look at the Patriots, they've got a great shot as well. They got a great shot as well. They got a great shot as well, but I don't like them over the Broncos, and I don't know if I like them over the Bills. Let's move on to another team here, and this is going to be a very interesting one to discuss because this is where things get to be fun. I don't know how people would feel about this team. Right now, the number 3 seeded team in the AFC is the 10-4 Jacksonville Jaguars. How do we feel about the Jaguars' chances to get to the Super Bowl? In all honesty, in a wide open AFC, if they get hot, I give them a really good shot. But I don't know how we grade this Jacksonville Jaguars team. Let's take a look at some of these stats right now. In terms of the Jaguars offense, because there were some surprises here. In terms of the Jaguars offense, Jaguars in terms of total yards, Jacksonville is right around the middle of the road. They're around 14. Around 14, 15. Actually, let me see. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Yeah, they're 16. Jacksonville, in terms of total offense, they rank 16 in the league in total offense. Passing yards a game, Jacksonville is right around that 16 mark. Rushing yards a game, Jacksonville, again, is right around that 16 mark. Points per game, Jacksonville scoring about 27 points per game. They actually are doing well in scoring. They're actually top 10 in scoring. They're 8th in scoring. They're right behind the New England Patriots. They average 26.9, so essentially 27 points a game. Jacksonville can put up points. Jacksonville can absolutely put up points. They are a strong team that can score. In terms of yardage and stuff, they're not the biggest in terms of yardage, but they average putting up 27 points a game. That's big. Putting up 27 points a game, it matters. It absolutely matters. A team that has the capability of scoring can be very dangerous in the playoffs. From a defensive standpoint, where Jacksonville ranks, they're actually top 10 in terms of total yards. They rank 10th in total yards. In terms of passing yards given up, they actually rank, they're actually around 18. They're around 18 for passing yards. And this is where things become fun. They're a top 10 defense. They're like 17, 18th for passing. They have the best run defense in football. Their run defense is better than Denver's. Jacksonville has the best run defense in football. You can't run the ball against them. Jacksonville has the best run defense in football. They're below average. They're at that second tier level when it comes to defending the pass. You can throw on the Jacksonville Jaguars. You can't run the ball on them. They got the best run defense in football. So they got to get some credit for that. They got the best run defense in football, and they rank 10th. They're the 10th best scoring defense in the league. They average giving up about 21 points a game. They average giving up about 21 points a game. They're right next to the Niners. They are right next to the San Francisco 49ers. They're tied with them for that 10th spot. So this defense is right around the top 10 mark. Not going to say they are top 10, but they're very close to being that top 10 level defense. So the Jacksonville Jaguars have a good defense, and they have an offense that is capable of scoring points. When you take a look at how they have fared this year, taking a look at their matchups, they beat the Panthers, they beat the Texans, they beat the Niners, they beat the Chiefs, they beat the Raiders, they beat the Chargers, they beat the Cardinals, they beat the Titans, beat the Colts, beat the Jets. So they, in fact, they swept. Let me see. Did they sweep the Colts? No, they have to play the Colts again. So they beat the Colts head-to-head and beat the Jets. The Jaguars have not had a highly impressive schedule. They have not had a highly impressive schedule. But they do have some solid wins. Beating the Texans is a solid win. Beating the Niners is a solid win. Beating the Chargers, in fact, they dominated the Chargers. That's a solid win. Here's where some of the concerns come in. They lost to the Bengals. I think that Joe Burrow was there. They lost to the Bengals, but here's some of the concerns. They put up 7 points against the Rams. They got blown out by LA, 35-7. They got smoked off the field. They got smoked off the field. They lost the Bengals, 31-27, not too bad. They put up 12 points against Seattle's defense, but most importantly, losing to the Rams 35-7 is bad. They also took a loss to Houston, but they played well enough in that game to win. Defensively, they don't give up a lot. That Rams loss looks really bad, and their schedule isn't the toughest, but that Rams loss really did look bad. I don't know how they would match up against LA if they meet up again, but yeah. They have some nice wins, but they haven't had the toughest of schedules either, and they've done relatively well for themselves. I think this is a really decent playoff team. I think they really have a shot. The last time Trevor Lawrence did make the playoffs, he won a playoff game against the Chargers. So I look at Jacksonville, and I think they are a very interesting team. Looking at them defensively, they gave up 30 points. They have 2 games where they've given up 30 points. So their defense, again, is within the top 10 range. Offensively, they've had some stinkers here and there offensively. 7 points to the Rams, 12 points to the Seahawks. But their offense has been able to at least score. Last but not least, Trevor Lawrence this year. Trevor Lawrence is having the best season of his career. He's coming off the best game of his career. We had 6 touchdowns against the Jets, where he absolutely cooked them and probably put up the best game of his young career. Or, I mean, if you still see him as that. Trevor Lawrence this year, not the prettiest of numbers, but still doing damage. 3,200 yards passing, 23 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, QBR of 51.8, and a passer rating of... Let me see. A passer rating. I'm trying to take a look at this. A passer rating of 87.9. So it's not the best. I think Trevor Lawrence has been kind of a mixed bag this year. He's coming off of the best performance of his career. He's been kind of a mixed bag, but he still has had some solid moments. I think he's made some great throws this year. He's made some great plays. And I think Jacksonville is a little bit underrated. I think they're a little bit underrated. Now, in order for them to prove that they're a little bit underrated, they've got to win this division against Houston, who's absolutely on the rise. They got to take this division against Houston. They split with the Texans, so they won't be taking on Houston anymore. But right now, the Jaguars have the advantage. They absolutely have the advantage right now in the division because they have a 1-game advantage against the Texans. Now, taking a look at this schedule now for the Jacksonville Jaguars, they've got 3 games left. If they want to secure the AFC South, they've got 3 games left. They take on the Broncos next week. That is their biggest test of the season. Denver will be the biggest test of the season for this Jacksonville team. How they perform there will give us a key indication as to how they're going to look for the rest of the year. Not how they're going to look adversity, in terms of how they're going to look in the playoffs. If they step up to the plate and beat the Broncos, I think we got to give more credit to the Jacksonville team and really talk about how they could really be a dangerous team, because nobody's talking about Jacksonville. They got a top 10 defense. Their defense is within the top 10. They got a top 10 to 12 defense. They got a really good defense. Their offense is putting up 27 points a game, or they're averaging putting up 27 points a game. They've played well. They haven't had the toughest schedule, but they do have some nice wins. They split with the Houston Texans. So again, their last big matchup is against Denver next week. After that, they got the Colts at Indianapolis, who are on the fall. They're on a huge downfall. And they got the Titans, who aren't a good team. They could beat the Titans, and they're probably going to beat the Colts. They literally smacked the hell out of the Colts by 17 last time they matched up with them. So I don't know if the Colts at this point, their season's on the downfall. Even if Phillip Rivers ends up playing in that game, I don't see if the Colts are going to beat the Jaguars. So realistically here, if the Texans are going to catch up, they need Jacksonville to lose to Denver. Houston needs Jacksonville to lose to Denver on Sunday. So that's what it's going to come down to. Meanwhile, for the Texans, their last 3 games will be against the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Colts. So again, they have to win those 3 games and then hope Jacksonville loses 1, which they could very well do. So I think it's going to be very interesting in terms of seeing how things are going to progress. But Jacksonville is a very interesting story this year. I don't know how people actually view their chances to make some noise in the postseason, but I like Jacksonville right now. They're a very underrated team, and they have an opportunity to prove that they're an underrated team by winning this division in a situation where people thought the Texans were going to win it. They win this, they could potentially win 13 games this year. They got a real good chance to win 13 games. Jacksonville wins 13 games, win their division. Hey, they would have proven themselves for sure. I like Jacksonville. It's been kind of a mixed bag. This is still the best season of Trevor Lawrence's career. A little bit of mixed bags with the numbers. Too many turnovers for me. But I do like some of the things I've seen from Jacksonville's defense. And I've seen some great plays from here from Trevor Lawrence. Also, to just put this out here, Jacksonville ranks 2nd in the league in takeaways. They have created 26 takeaways this year. Jacksonville ranks 2nd in takeaways this year. Just to give you a little bit of a hindsight here. They have created 26 takeaways. Chicago's at number 1 with 30. We'll talk about that when we get to the NFC. But yeah, the Jacksonville Jaguars they've created 26 takeaways this year. 26 They're 2nd in the league in takeaways. They're a top 10 defense, and they're 2nd in the league in takeaways. People are underrating that Jacksonville defense. This team is legit. Feel however you want to feel about Jacksonville. This team is legit. I think they got a good shot. The AFC is wide open. Trevor Lawrence is playing the best football of his career. They've got a great defense. They've got a good shot. Now, realistically, I don't know how they would do against some of these other teams. They're very weak in stopping the pass. They're the best run defense in football. That's not really going to matter against a team like Denver, because Denver likes to air the ball out. And considering the fact that they struggle to stop the pass, going up against an offense in Denver that loves to air it out and doesn't really run like that, that's not a good matchup. And then defensively, they're going to struggle with that defense that Denver has. I don't see Jacksonville beating Denver. I could see a scenario where they do beat the New England Patriots, though. I think, again, the fact that they've got the best run defense in football, and when you look at the Patriots, they really do like to lean a little bit on that run because Hendrickson's been great for them. They like to lean a lot on that run. That run is really effective in opening up the offense for them. Jacksonville's strength is stopping the run. And if New England can't run the ball, that's going to be a little bit problematic. So I think that matchup could actually favor Jacksonville in some cases, and Jacksonville could catch the Patriots lacking. That would be an interesting game to watch. But yeah, I don't think they'd beat Denver. I think they got a shot against the Patriots. I think they actually match up well against Buffalo because, again, Buffalo is one of the best rushing units in the league. James Cook's a monster, and then you know what Josh Allen can also do with his legs. But Jacksonville's bread and butter is stopping the run. It's about airing it out. Now, we're going to get to Buffalo soon, and we'll see how they rank in a lot of these things. So I think Jacksonville could They could be an interesting matchup against Buffalo. I don't know if they would beat Buffalo either because Josh Allen, again, will be able to make those type of plays that, you just can't stop defensively. So I don't know if they'd beat the Bills. I don't know if they'd beat the Bills, but I think Jacksonville, if they get the right matchup, I could see Jacksonville beating I could see them beating the Patriots potentially. If they matched up with Houston, their own division rival, I could see that happening because they split with Houston. And I can maybe see scenarios where they're going to be able to potentially beat potentially the Chargers. Now, obviously, the lower teams, we'll get to the lower teams because I know, listen, everybody that I'm talking right now are within the top seed. I think all the top seeded ones can beat the bottom seeded teams right now, potentially. Or at least the one bottom seed team. AFC North. We'll get to those specific teams when we get to them. But I think all the teams I've mentioned right now could beat those teams in the matchup. Neither one of those teams in the AFC North are playing good football. I think they could get them. But that's a different conversation for a little bit later once we get to the AFC North teams. But yeah, as the current, I said 4 seed, right? Excuse me. As the current 3 seed. As the current 3 seed, right now in the AFC, the Jacksonville Jaguars are a really good team, very underrated. I think they could potentially beat the Patriots. I don't see them beating the Broncos. I could see them beating the Texans because they've split with them. That's a division rival. I don't see them beating the Bills, and I think it's a toss-up between them and the Chargers. The last time Jacksonville was in the playoffs, they took on the Chargers, and they pulled off that amazing comeback. So they beat the Chargers in the playoffs last time. In fact, that was the last, no, they went there last year. The last time Trevor Lawrence was in the playoffs, he faced off against Justin Herbert and beat him head-to-head in the playoff game. So, I think it's possible. Jacksonville could beat the Chargers. I don't know if I feel fully comfortable in saying that. And we'll get into LA when we come up to them. But Jacksonville, I see some paths where they could beat some teams. I could see them beating the Patriots. I could see them beating the Texans. I don't see them beating the Broncos. I'm not sure they could beat the Bills. I don't know how I feel about them against the Chargers. That's a toss-up. Either way, Jacksonville is a great team this year, and I think they got a really good shot in the wide-open AFC. Best of luck to them in the postseason as well. Cannot wait to see how some of these matchups, go. Let's see if the Jacksonville Jaguars can get more credit and actually get some attention because nobody's been talking about them this year. Unfortunately, we have to go by order, even though I don't want to. You know what? Nah, I'm not going by order. I'm skipping the AFC North. We'll do those guys last. So we're going to skip the 4th-seeded Steelers team. We're going to skip the 4th-seeded Steelers team. And we're going to go right to the Chargers. So the Chargers are the 5th-seeded team at 10-4. They currently are 2nd in the AFC West. They are going up against the Denver Broncos for that division. And I think Denver and LA have one more matchup to kind of decide that. So the Chargers still have a shot, an outside shot to try to win that division. But I don't know. I don't know if they. I want to see this real quick. Do they have? Let me see. Do they have to face off again? Yeah, they got one more. They got one more match at the end of the season. They got one more chance to take on the Broncos. So the Chargers have an outside chance to potentially take that division from the Broncos. But I don't know if they're going to be able to pull that off. Either way. Let's talk about the Los Angeles Chargers. So, the LA Chargers are 10-4 on the season. They are 10-4 on the season. The Chargers this year have been kind of a mixed bag, but they've also had some nice wins. They swept the Chiefs this year. Now, if the Chiefs were in the playoffs and if the Chiefs were a good team, everyone would be sitting there and giving these guys praise. And you notice I didn't talk about I didn't talk about Denver beating the Chiefs or Jacksonville beating the Chiefs. The Chiefs, or even any other team beating the Chiefs. The Chiefs weren't a good football team this year. That's why they're not going to make the playoffs. That's not really an impressive win when that team's been terrible this year and everything's been poor. That's where the concerns happen. There it is. I knew it. I completely forgot about it. I talked about this with Jacksonville. I apologize. Let me run it back. They absolutely could beat the Chargers. They beat them head-to-head this year. I literally mentioned that 5 minutes ago, and I completely forgot. I was sitting there saying it's a coin toss. It probably could still be a coin toss, but the Jacksonville Jaguars already matched up with the Chargers this year head-to-head and beat them. Jacksonville can beat the Chargers. They already beat them. They already beat them this season. So Jacksonville can absolutely beat the Chargers in the playoffs. The Chargers can get got, especially by a Jacksonville team that they lost to this year. So yeah, moving on, or running it back here to the Chargers. The Chargers, they did beat the Denver Broncos. Let's keep that in mind. They beat the Denver Broncos. That is an impressive win. They beat the Philadelphia Eagles. That is also an impressive win. Other than that, not too much to say. This is where you start to look and say, hey, there's some concerns here. They beat the Raiders. They beat the Raiders. Like I said, they beat the Raiders. They beat the they beat the Raiders. They beat the Vikings. They beat the Dolphins. They beat the Titans. They swept the Raiders, in fact. Those are good. Here's my thing about the Chargers. I don't trust them. I don't trust them. They had two impressive wins this year, beating Denver and beating the Eagles. They've had two impressive wins. Here's why I don't trust them. Take a look at some of these losses. They lost to the Giants. That was with Jackson Dart. I think that may have been his first or second start. That might have actually been his first start. Jackson Dart, in his first or second start of his career, he beat that Chargers team. And the Chargers, they had that game in their hands and they blew it. There's no reason for that. That Chargers team was coming off a situation where they swept everybody in the AFC West. They beat the Chiefs, they beat the Raiders, and they beat the Broncos head-to-head. They were 3-0 on the season and 3-0 in their own division. And they took on New York and blew it against the Giants. To make matters worse, they lost to the Commanders. They put up 10 points against the Washington Commanders. Yes, Jaden Daniels was there, but the Commanders this year, they have not been a good team. The Commanders have not been a good team this year. Putting up 10 points against the Commanders defense, unacceptable. They took a loss against the Colts, and it wasn't a good loss. It was a bad loss. They got blown out against the Colts. That's concerning. They got absolutely thrashed by the Jacksonville Jaguars, 35-6. 6 points. They put up 6 points against Jacksonville. These are concerns. I don't trust the Chargers. I don't think the Chargers will ever get to a point where we could fully feel comfortable about them heading into the playoffs because they've had a history of choking. Their entirety of a franchise, they've had a history of choking. I don't know if we're ever going to get to that point. I don't know. I can't say I can trust the Chargers. They have some impressive wins, like beating the Broncos and beating the Eagles. Those are impressive wins. But they put up 6 points against Jacksonville in the loss. They put up 6 points against Jacksonville. That's not a good look. They lost to the Giants and the Commanders in back-to-back weeks. And they put up 10 points against the Commanders' defense. The Commanders' defense has not been good all year. I have some concerns with them. Let's actually take a look at their ranking. I want to see where they rank overall because you can have some bad losses but still be a good team overall. Let's take a look at this. Offensively, where do the Chargers rank offensively? Let's take a look. Chargers, they're kind of middle of the pack. They're middle of the pack. They rank 15th in total offense. In passing offense, the Chargers are right behind Jacksonville. They're around, 18, 19? Yeah, they're 19. So they're 10th in total offense. They rank 19th in passing yards a game. Rushing yards a game, the Chargers are around, oh my God, they're 11th. So how are they 10th in total yards then? They're 11th in rushing, in total rushing. They're 19th in total passing, and yet somehow, they're not ranked 10th. They're ranked 15th. I'm sorry. They're kind of a middle of the road type of offense here. However, let's see how many points they put up a game. The Chargers average putting up, they're actually middle of the road again, and they average putting up about 20. They put up 22.5 points a game. They're actually right behind Houston, and actually they're right behind Philadelphia. They're averaging putting up 22 points a game. I'm not too high on the Chargers here. I think the Chargers, again, they have highs and lows. I've seen some of these games. They have highs and lows. Highs and lows. When the Chargers are on that high, it's tough to beat them. When the Chargers are going through their lows, they don't show up. at all. This is a dangerous team that's got their highs and their lows. I don't like some of the things I'm seeing with this Chargers team. I get they got a great team. You got a great quarterback. Let's see how their defense is. This is much better. This is much better. This is where I can actually lean on. Okay, I got something to lean on. In terms of total yards here, the Chargers rank second in terms of total yards. In terms of passing yards given up, they rank third. In terms of rushing yards given up, they rank they're 11th. In terms of, they're the second best pass defense in football. They ranked 11th in rushing yards given up. And in terms of scoring offense, all right, they rank about 9th. They rank 8th or 9th. Let me see. Yeah, they rank 9th. So, pass defense, they got the second best pass defense in football. They ranked 11th in rush defense. They rank 9th in scoring defense. They average giving up 20 points a game. So that's where I got something to lean on now. I got something to lean on. Their offense is middle of the road. Their defense is elite. Their defense is elite. They got a top 10 defense. I got something to lean on now. Now I can feel a little bit more comfortable about them. In fact, let me go take a look at how these scores have gone for them. The Chargers, they've given up 2 games. 2 games this year they've given up where their defense has given up 2 games of 30-plus points. They gave up 38 to the Colts, and they gave up 35 to the Jaguars. They got a good defense. That's what I can lean on here. Just like Denver, the Chargers have a good defense. They've got a great defense, in fact. This is a top 10 defense. So I've got something to lean on here if I'm the Chargers. The offense is middle of the pack. Hey, Brandon, what's up? I have not done the NFC yet. I'm on the AFC. We started off with the AFC. We will be transitioning. We'll be transitioning to the NFC relatively soon. We're on the Chargers right now. I got a few more teams left, but we have not done the NFC yet. I am excited to do that because it is wide open there. But we are talking about the AFC right now. We are doing the Chargers. So, yeah, Chargers, they're a middle-of-the-road team offensively, and defensively, they're an elite defense. They got a top 10 defense. So now I got something to lean on here. That defense is what's going to have to carry the Chargers in the playoffs. Not to mention, you do have a great quarterback. Let's see what we have from Justin Herbert this year. Early on, he was in the MVP conversation. That fizzled out real quickly. Let's see what type of season Justin Herbert's been having. Dude, is everybody throwing 23 touchdowns this year? Dude, everybody's at 23. Except like 3 quarterbacks. 3,100 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, QBR 58, and okay, that's not what I expected. I thought it would be higher. A passer rating of 92. Justin Herbert's been kind of up and down. This is a step back from his season last year. I mean, last year he had, honestly, it's a step back in terms of efficiency. A little bit of a step back in terms of efficiency, but it's a step back because of the amount of turnovers. Because last year he was 23 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, a passer rating of 101. He was great last year. This year he's turning the ball over at a much higher clip. That's a bit concerning. But Justin Herbert's still an effective quarterback, and I do give the Chargers a chance. In terms of how big of a chance I give them, again, the Chargers at their best versus Denver at their best, I'll take Denver. The Chargers at their best versus New England at their best, they've got an elite defense. They're great at stopping the pass. That could be very, very, very problematic for a team that could be very problematic for the Patriots because they do like to throw the football, but they do lean on their run game more. I think that's where my concern is because they're like 11th in run defense, like 9th or 11th, one of those two. So they're still pretty good in stopping the run. That's just not their bread and butter. They'll stop the pass. They're just not great at stopping the run. And the Patriots do love to lean on their run game. So that actually could benefit the Patriots defensively. For the Patriots, how they fare against the Chargers offense, they actually do pretty well against the Chargers offense. And again, the Chargers offense is averaging 22 points a game, whereas New England's averaging 27 points a game. However, the Chargers have played against some tough opponents, and New England hasn't been tested. That's where things get tough. the Patriots haven't been tested, so that makes things difficult. But at the same time, just because you haven't been tested by a lot of elite teams does not mean you can't win the game. The Buffalo Bills did not fare well against a lot of teams. They didn't have a strong schedule last year. Most of their wins came from teams that weren't great. However, the two biggest wins they got in the regular season was against the two number one seeded teams on each side in the Lions and the Chiefs. They didn't have a lot of impressive wins, but they got those two. Meanwhile, you saw Baltimore. They were going up against playoff team after playoff team after playoff team. So they had a more impressive resume heading into the playoffs. But what happened when those two teams meet? Buffalo won. So it's not always about your resume. It plays a role, which is why we have these discussions and question things. But it's more so how you rank as a team and how you perform in some of these moments. So the Chargers could certainly get the Patriots. But I don't know if I would fully feel comfortable saying the Chargers can go into Foxborough and win. I don't know about that. I think the Chargers are streaky for me. The Chargers at times can be streaky. I love their defense. I don't love their offense. I don't trust their offense. I like Justin Herbert. I don't trust that offense. And they're already they're still having the issues with their offensive line and stuff. So I have concerns. I have legitimate concerns with the Chargers consistency-wise from an offensive standpoint. Their defense is elite. I don't trust that offense right now. I'm very, very concerned about said offense. So I don't know if they'd beat Denver, but they could. Denver, again, that's my pick, but my concern is Bo Nix. I think the only thing that stops the Broncos from getting to the Super Bowl is Bo Nix being inconsistent. That's where my concern comes in. So I think I can have the same level of concerns for the Chargers. Inconsistency from the offense. However, the Chargers did beat the Broncos this year. They could certainly beat them. I don't think they will, but I think they can be beat because that's a divisional rival. So I'm going to scratch that. They can certainly beat the Broncos. They did it this year. I don't think they will in the playoffs, but I'm going to sit back and take my personal opinion to the side. They can certainly beat the Broncos. They did this year, and it's a divisional rival. They can beat the Patriots. However, I don't fully trust in the Chargers going into Foxborough and winning that game. I'm not sure about that Jacksonville matchup. Like I said, they got thrashed 35-6. Jacksonville seems to they match up really well against the Chargers. They seem to fare well against the Chargers. And if you're going to fare well against the Chargers, then you're going to have the benefit of the doubt, especially because the last time these two teams went in the playoffs, the Chargers blew the lead. The Jaguars came back and won the game. I know that was 2-3 years ago, but still, that does kind of play a role in matchups because it's still similar cores and similar cores and the exact same quarterbacks going up against each other. I like the defense. I really like the defense of the Chargers, and I think it's again, this playoffs is going to be defense, man. Denver has a good defense. New England has a good defense. Jacksonville has a good defense. The Chargers have a good defense. I think it's going to come down to defense. It's going to come down to defensive. It's going to come down to, matter of fact, I'm not even going to say it's going to come down to defense. It's going to come down to who can execute more offensively against all these elite defenses. Because all these defenses are great. Who's going to be able to execute more consistently against these great defenses? I think that's what it's going to come down to in the playoffs. Which leads me to my next team to talk about because that is the perfect transition. If we're talking about an offense and a quarterback that will be able to execute against elite defenses, we cannot sit back and ignore this next team. All right. The number 6 team to talk. So, yeah, to end things off, I think the Chargers are a good team. I think they could potentially beat Denver in a playoff matchup. They could potentially beat the Patriots in the playoff matchup. I don't like that matchup against Jacksonville. It seems like that has their number. Of course, Steelers, Ravens, you know that host. We'll talk about the AFC when we talk about them. I think the Chargers match up well against some of these teams in the playoffs, and I think they have a shot. I would not pick them, but I think they have a shot. But speaking of offenses that would have to execute consistently enough against these elite defenses to go the distance, we have reached the number 6 team in the AFC, the 10-4 Buffalo Bills. Oh boy, we get to talk about Buffalo. Yeah, Ravens fan talk about the Buffalo Bills. I'm sure Buffalo's going to like what I have to say, right? They're certainly going to love what I have to say about their team. You know, anytime a Ravens fan talks about a Bills team or a Bills fan talks about the Ravens team, it's completely cordial and everybody fully understands where they're coming from and they listen to them and they understand where they're coming from and they're fully like, yeah, you know, you're making some sense. You're making some great sense. Oh boy. All right. So let's talk about the Buffalo Bills this year because this is a conversation that needs to be made. Taking a look at it, Buffalo has had some impressive wins this year. They beat the Patriots. They beat the Buccaneers. However, if you look at the Buccaneers like that, okay, this is the wins that the Bills have had. The Bills beat the Ravens. The Bills beat the Ravens, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Saints, the Panthers, the Chiefs, the Buccaneers, the Steelers, the Bengals, the Patriots. That's their 10 wins. I'm gonna be honest here. I don't see a lot of impressive wins for the Bills in terms of who they beat, but I do see impressive wins because they have multiple double-digit comebacks against some of these teams. Look at again, we literally saw them down 21 points to the New England Patriots, and they came back and beat them. That's an impressive win. They were down 15 points with 4 minutes left to go in week 1 against the Baltimore Ravens, and they came back and beat them. That's an impressive win. Baltimore's not a good team this year, but to be able to pull off a comeback like that against Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and that crew, that is an impressive win. You can't take that away. They were down 21. I think this is more of a situation where they don't have a lot of impressive wins in terms of who they beat, but the impressive performances in how they were able to come back in some of these games is what you look at and say, yeah, that deserves to be accredited to. I don't look at this as a lot of strong wins, but at the end of the day, they've pulled off multiple double-digit comebacks this year. Highly impressive. Multiple double-digit comebacks. And I'm not going to take that away from them. Now, of course, there are a little bit of concerns that you have to look at. And this is where I get to the conversation with Buffalo that Bills fans want to keep being delusional and ignore. Josh Allen's great. He's elite. Right now, he's playing sensational football like he always does. Again, he's a member of the Elite Four. If you want to say right now he's number one of the Elite Four, by all means, go ahead and have that conversation. I don't care for the conversation. I never really get involved in it. I always say the Elite Four is the Elite Four. Argue amongst yourselves about who's the best in that Elite Four. We know the Elite Four with Mahomes and Lamar and Burrow and Allen. We know the Elite Four. Argue who's the best of the four. I don't care. I don't get in those debates. But Josh Allen this year has been great, sensational like he's been every single year. Here's the thing about the Buffalo Bills. They don't have a lot of impressive wins, but the way they've won some of these games have been impressive. So I won't take that away from them. That's why I'll say they have been impressive this year. More so, it's been Josh Allen and that offense being impressive this year. Here's my concerns, and this is why I have to say this with very, 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 very strong clarity. I don't view this Buffalo Bills team as a unit that's going to get to the Super Bowl this year. I don't. I'm being very clear. In fact, honestly, looking at this, I say it's wide open. I give all these guys a shot. I give Buffalo a shot too. But right now, I'm looking at the Broncos as a team that I could see get to the Super Bowl straight up. From there, I would look at Buffalo competing with the Patriots for that spot, and then we would go to a team like Houston and stuff like that. We'll talk about the rankings. But I don't think this team's going to be able to get it done this year. I know everyone's putting this pressure. Josh Allen's amazing. Josh Allen's great. But this needs to be specified right here. Let's take a look at this right now. They lost to the Patriots 23-20. It's fine as a divisional matchup. They lost to the Falcons. They put up 14 points against the Falcons and lost. They put up 13 points against the Dolphins and lost. The Houston Texans defense humiliated Josh Allen. And that, once again, it's back-to-back years where the Texans defense has played very well and has had Josh Allen's number because he's put up 2 of his worst performances against that defense. So, pitiful performance from Josh in that offense against Houston, an embarrassing performance against the Dolphins where they lost and put up 13 points at Miami, and then putting up 14 points against the Falcons? Are you serious? To make matters worse here, against the Dolphins, that defense gave up 30 points. 30. The Bills defense, let's look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The Bills defense has 5 games where they've given up 30 points or more. 5. They've played 14 games, and in 5 of the 14 games, this defense has given up 30 points in 5 of those games. 5 of the 14 games, they put up 30 points. Their opponents have put up 30 points or more on them. How can you trust the defense that consistently struggles to make stops? Matter of fact, let's make it even more. Let's take a look at some of this. Let's take a look at some of this right now. Let's take a look at some of this right now. If you actually take a look at these wins, you would actually see that as much as people want to pretend it's just Josh Allen, it's not. Take a look at these wins. It's not just Josh Allen. It's Josh Allen and James Cook. If those two are not playing at their very best, this team loses. Against the Falcons, they put up 14 points. Josh Allen, 15 of 26, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, passer rating of 72, QBR of 15. That was a game where James Cook had 87 rushing yards. That was against the Falcons in that loss. Just taking a look at some of the losses here. When you look at this and say how James Cook impacts this team. Let's take a look at this game here where they lost against the Patriots. Josh Allen, 22 of 31, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was pretty good in this game. 103 passer rating, QBR 47, but James Cook only has 49 rushing yards. Let's take a look at this other one here where they got smoked by the Dolphins and put up 13 points. Josh Allen in this game, 28 of 40, 306, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, passer rating of 98.5. James Cook had 13 carries for 53 yards. Let's take a look at this game against the Houston Texans. The 4th loss that the Buffalo Bills have had. If you haven't caught on, I'm just letting you know the trend here. Josh Allen, 24 of 34, 253, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, pass rating 67.4, QBR 28.3. James Cook had 17 carries for 116 yards and a touchdown. If you haven't caught on to this trend, this isn't a Josh Allen thing only. The Bills cannot win without both of them. If Josh Allen's on the money and James Cook is doing nothing, there's a high chance they're going to lose the game. If James Cook's on the money but Josh Allen's having a bad game, there's a high chance they're going to lose the game. Their defense is not good. Their defense is not good. In order for Buffalo to win games the way they've been winning games and pulling off these comebacks, the Buffalo Bills are asking Josh Allen and James Cook to play at a superhuman level. They have to play elite ball every single week. James Cook has to cook defenses on the ground, and Josh Allen has to play like the best quarterback in football. He's got to be Superman on a week-to-week basis. That is not sustainable enough when you have to go up against some of these elite defenses. If you take a look at the loss, if you take away James Cook, it doesn't matter what Allen's going to do. They're going to probably lose that game. Obviously, if you take away Josh Allen, they're going to lose. But what I'm saying is Josh Allen can't do this by himself. This defense is not good enough for Josh Allen to carry them. And right now, they're not in a situation where they're leading the division. There's a chance there's a strong chance the Patriots are going to win the AFC East. So if the Patriots win the division, that means you're saying Josh Allen has to go on the road from the wild card round. He has to go on the road. He would have to go on the road, potentially to Denver. He would have to go on the road, potentially to New England. He would have to go on the road, potentially to even Jacksonville or Houston. He would have to go on the road and win 3 road games against tough defenses in situations where both he and James Cook have to play superhuman ball and hope the defense doesn't give up 30 points. This defense has given up 30 points in 5 of the 14 games they played. In 5 of the 14 games they played. Matter of fact, let's cut it even more. Let's take a look at this. In terms of how this defense has played, this defense, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 4. They have 5 games where they've given up 30-plus points. They have 4 games where they've given up under 20. So essentially, if we're going to talk about this defense, essentially in 10 of the 14 games played this year, they have given up 20 or more points, with 5 of those games being 30 or more. This defense is not good. Let's take a look at the rankings. Offensively, this is what you need to know about the Buffalo Bills. For all these Bills fans that want to talk about their teams winning a Super Bowl and all this other stuff, you don't have a good enough team to get it done with the way this defense is playing. Offensively, do you not understand how much Josh Allen and James Cook is carrying? They're carrying this team. They're actively carrying this team. You're asking too much of those 2 guys to carry you. You're asking too much. So let's take a look at this. Offensively, you're going to notice a nice little trend. Offensively, the Bills have the 3rd best offense in football. In terms of total yards, they rank 3rd. In terms of passing yards, they rank 13th in passing yards. In terms of rushing yards, they have the best running team in football. They're number 1 in rushing this year. They are leaning heavily on James Cook in the run game, as well as Josh Allen as well, utilizing his legs. Their running game is their bread and butter. They've got a good passing game because it's still Josh Allen, but their running game is everything. If you can stop the run, like a Jacksonville, you could put this Buffalo Bills team in serious danger. Their bread and butter is the run game. They can still pass. It's Josh Allen. He's going to throw beams and lasers everywhere. But the running game is the engine of this offense. It starts with James Cook and continues on with Josh Allen. If they can't run the ball, that puts them in serious risk. Also, they rank 3rd in scoring. They're averaging 30 points a game. They're averaging 29 points. They're averaging nearly 30 points, 29.4. The Buffalo Bills are 3rd in scoring. They're number 1 in rushing. They're 11th in passing, and they're 3rd overall in total offense this year. That is where the Buffalo Bills rank offensively. They got a top 5 offense. Take a look at the defense. In terms of defense, Buffalo is ranked 12th in terms of total yards given up. Passing yards for the Buffalo Bills, they actually do a good job. I think their secondary has been great this year. They do a good job in making sure you don't get to throw on them. So good on them. In terms of rushing defense, they have the 3rd worst rushing defense in football. Do you understand what that means? You can run all over Buffalo. Buffalo can't stop the run to save their lives. Meaning, if you're a team that is elite at running the ball, you can just run the ball all over them. Take a look at the offenses that are elite at rushing the ball. In terms of the AFC, there's one other team that is elite at rushing the ball. We'll get into them. But the Chargers are ranked 11th. New England's 13th. Denver's not great at running the ball. So there is an advantage here. There is an advantage here because the Buffalo Bills, they're great at stopping the pass. They do a good job stopping the pass, but they can't stop the run to save their life. They've got a terrible run defense. They're horrible at stopping the run. So if you got an elite team, see, this is literally because I'm looking at who's second. I'm looking at the second best. Let me pull that up again. I'm looking at the 3rd best rushing attack in football right now, and it ain't even that far off. The 3rd best rushing attack in football, and I'm noticing that Buffalo can't stop the run. I got some concern. I got some real questions. I got some real questions and some real sayings, man. I ain't trying to say nothing about nothing. But realistically, there's a certain team that could actually do damage against this Buffalo team. But, yeah. Defensively, they haven't been the best. They're kind of middle of the road. They're good at stopping the pass. They are good. This Buffalo Bills team is good at covering in the secondary. They can't stop the run to save their life. They have the third worst rushing defense in football. They have the third worst rushing defense in football. To make matters worse, they got they're 16th in scoring defense this year. They average giving up 23 points a game. So they give up a good chunk of points. They can't stop the run. They're kind of a middle of the pack defense here. That's really concerning. That is really, really concerning. That is really concerning. Buffalo's also top 10 in takeaways. So it's not like this defense is terrible. I'm not going to pretend they're garbage, complete garbage, but they're not good enough for you to feel comfortable about them. Especially in an AFC like this, where they can be had if you can run the ball effectively against them. New England showed they could run the ball effectively against them. They blew it at the end because their defense couldn't make a stop. But they showed they can effectively run the ball against them. If you have an offense that can run the ball on an elite level, you can beat the Buffalo Bills. That defense can be had. And I don't feel comfortable about Buffalo's defense this year. I don't. Buffalo's defense, once again, will be the downfall of their postseason run. They will be the downfall of this team come January. I don't like the defense of Buffalo. That's a big part of why I don't feel like Buffalo is going to get to the Super Bowl. I think that defense is going to let them down again. I think Josh Allen's going to do what he can do to try to carry this damn team, but they're going to fall short because the defense is not going to make a stop. And again, Josh Allen having another great year, 3,200 yards passing, 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He has 12 rushing touchdowns. Take that however you will. QBR of 66.4, and he has a passer rating of 104.3. It's the second highest passer rating of his career, right next to 107 that he had in 2020, the year he probably could have won MVP. But that's a different conversation for a different year. Anyway, yeah. Josh Allen's having a great year. Their offense is explosive. They can put numbers up on anybody. They can do legitimate damage on anybody. But that defense is where my concern is. Because all the other teams prior to this, when we talk about the Broncos, they have an elite defense. When we talk about the Jaguars, they have an elite defense. When we talk about the Steelers, when we talk about the Chargers, they got an elite defense. All these other teams got good defenses that could potentially slow down the Bills. They also have offenses that could put up points. And some of these guys can run the ball effectively. The Patriots showed they can run the ball effectively against the Bills. In all honesty, Josh Allen and James Cook, if they go superhero mode in the playoffs, they're going to the Super Bowl. If they can go superhero in the playoffs and then hope their defense doesn't give up 30 points, they can go to the Super Bowl. This team has the firepower to get to the Super Bowl. This team can cook any defense, elite or not. You have Josh Allen, you got James Cook. They can cook any defense no matter who they're facing off against. However, if that defense cannot consistently make stops and that defense cannot stop the run, because they're the third worst rush defense in football, if they can't stop the run, they can be had. It's as simple as that. If you can't stop the run, you can be had in the playoffs. For damn sure. They can't stop the run. They could certainly be had in the playoffs. I don't trust this defense. I think it's going to be another year where Josh Allen balls on the postseason, and they're going to fall short because of that defense. And if that happens, Sean McDermott has to be fired. That's all I got to say about that. But yeah, this defense for Buffalo, it's not terrible. It's more so middle of the pack. It's close to top 10, but not quite top 10. It's more so middle of the pack. But they have the third worst rush defense in the league. I don't trust them. You got a top 5 offense and a middle of the road defense that is terrible at stopping the run. That's where my concerns would be. So Buffalo, honestly, it's Super Bowl or bust. They have the firepower to get to the Super Bowl, but they don't have the defense that could help them get there. And I think that ultimately could cost them once again. And if that happens, Sean McDermott, pack your bags. You're done in Buffalo. That's all I got to say about that. So yeah, Buffalo's chances to make the Super Bowl is incredibly high. You got Josh Allen, you got James Cook. They got an explosive offense, the top 5 offense for sure. But that defense could be the downfall of them for yet another season. Next up, we've got the Texans, the number 7 seeded Texans at 9-5. Woo-wee! Now, I made my personal pick and said the Denver Broncos are the team I picked to go to the Super Bowl because I like their team overall. I just have concerns about Bo Nix as a quarterback. If we're talking about dark horse teams, the Houston Texans are my dark horse team. Now, this is, of course, a team that's never made the AFC Championship game before. But, hey, History is there to be made. History is there to be made, and I hope they have the opportunity to make history. The Houston Texans this year. Say whatever you want. Houston's had some impressive wins. That thrashing the Ravens, that was an impressive one because they were missing Lamar. They were missing Lamar. They were missing Cal Hamilton. They were missing Marlon Humphrey. So I was about to say impressive win, but they were going up against Cooper Rush. So let's see. They beat the Niners. That's an impressive win. They beat the Jaguars. That's an impressive win. They beat the Buffalo Bills. That's an impressive win. I don't know if you feel the Colts win was impressive because Daniel Jones was still there at the time and they beat them. So that would be viewed as an impressive win. We are very close, Brandon. We are getting ready to get to the NFC soon. I just have two more teams to talk about. We're on the Houston Texans. They're the 7th seed. So we're very close to getting to the NFC, man. But we have to finish up the AFC first. So Houston. Not a lot to talk about Houston. One, there's not a lot to talk about because I don't really have a lot of negatives to really speak about. They are peaking at the right time. They're peaking at the right time. Their defense has been elite all season long. Their defense, let me put this straight. Let me give it to you straight. The Houston Texans have the best defense in football. There ain't nothing else to say. The Houston Texans have got the best defense in football. They have not given up 30 points to a single opponent this year. Not one 30-point game given up by this defense. You want to further go into the numbers? Let's take a look at the Texans defense. The Texans have the number 1 overall defense. They're number 1 in total yards. When it comes to passing defense, they rank 4th in passing defense. They rank 4th in rushing defense. They rank number 1 in scoring defense. They're averaging giving up 16 points a game. So they're the best scoring defense in football. They rank top 5 in both pass defense and rush defense. And to make things better, they're top 5 in takeaways. So let me get this straight. You've got a defense. Listen to me now. Listen to me. You've got a defense in Houston that is top 5 in damn near everything. Top 5 in total. They got the best overall defense in football. Top 5 pass defense, top 5 rush defense, top 5 scoring defense. In fact, number 1 scoring defense in football, and they're top 5 in takeaways. What is there to talk about? This is absolutely a dark horse Super Bowl team. They got the best defense in football. Best defense in football. Number 1 scoring defense in football. Number 1 total defense in football. Top 5 in both pass and rush defense. What is there to talk about? They got the best defense in football. If there's any team that I can see make the Super Bowl, this team, dark horse, straight up, dark horse Super Bowl team. This defense can take them to the promised land. Nobody wants to see them. If the Bills see the Texans in the playoffs, they will lose. If the Chargers see the Texans in the playoffs, they will lose. If the Jaguars see the Texans in the playoffs, it will go down to the wire, but I will take Houston over Jacksonville. I think this team can beat anybody. Denver, if they're not careful, the Texans can beat them. I can see Houston going all the way. Offensively, we can't even talk about their offense as a whole because we know C.J. Stroud has missed some time. C.J. Stroud's missed some time. It's hard to assess a Texans team that has missed their starting quarterback for several games. But I will sit back and say this. C.J. Stroud, so far this season, he's had his moments of inconsistencies, but he's starting to turn the page a little bit here in a moment where they need him to start turning the page and start looking like the guy that we saw his rookie year. C.J. Stroud, on the season, he's missed some time. He has not played every game this year. Honestly, looking at the season, he's played, how many games has he played? He has played, let me go right here. How many games did he play? He's played 11 of the 15 games they played this year because they're 9 and 5, 11 to 14 games. So he's missed 3 games. CJ Stroud has missed 3 games. He has not been perfect. I'm not going to lie to you. 2,400 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, QBR of 62.5, which is actually pretty good, and a passer rating of 94.1. He has not been perfect this year, but he is starting to turn the corner a little bit because we know he missed time. But you start to take a look at some of these last few games. He had his best game against Arizona. Kansas City, he did play well. He didn't play well against the Colts in that win. They did lose to Denver. Denver can be beat. Denver beat this team 18-15. So I'm saying if they don't be careful, I could see this team beating everybody. CJ just has to be more consistent. Oh my God, this is seriously a playoffs where we're going to look at this and say the quarterback has to be consistent. Bo Nix has to be consistent. Drake May has to be consistent. CJ Stroud has to be consistent. Justin Herbert's got to be a little bit more consistent, especially in the playoffs. We saw what happened last year. He's got to show that consistency in the postseason. Where's consistency? This isn't a year where we can sit back and say you got elite quarterbacks through and through. Quarterbacks got to be consistent here. You got to be consistent. But we got a lot of good defenses in the playoffs this year, and Houston has the best defense. That defense is good enough to carry them to the promised land. Without a doubt. Nothing else to really say here. They've got the best defense in football, top 5 all around. This defense can take them to the Super Bowl. CJ has to be consistent. Just like Denver's defense can take them to the Super Bowl if Bo Nix is consistent, or Jacksonville could potentially go on a run if Trevor Lawrence is more consistent, or if Buffalo can just be decent. If they could just hold teams to like 24 and below, Buffalo's going to the Super Bowl. If quarterbacks can be consistent here and there, runs can happen. If the defense can do their jobs at certain spots, specifically with Buffalo, teams can go to the Super Bowl. It's going to be a really interesting playoffs because I think it's going to come down to defensive matchups against some of these quarterbacks in these huge spots in the game. And it's either you deliver or you don't. Josh Allen's delivered in these moments, which is why people believe Josh Allen's going to get it done and take this team to the Super Bowl. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does that, but I just don't trust his defense to not fold. His defense has folded far too many times. I think it's going to be out of his hands. I just think his defense is going to fold again, and Sean McDermott should be fired after that. But that's beside the point. Houston's got the best defense in football. Houston has the best defense in football. What else is there to say? They're top 5 throughout the span. From scoring defense to pass defense, rush defense, takeaways, they are elite. Houston's defense can take them to the Super Bowl this year. Absolutely. Houston's defense can take them to the Super Bowl. They just need the offense to be more consistent. And if their offense can be more consistent, they absolutely can get to the Super Bowl. And that's all that I got to say about the Texans. That is a very dangerous team. Nobody wants to face off against Houston's defense come playoff time. You don't want to take on that Texans defense in the postseason. Buffalo don't want to see the Texans in the playoffs. The Chargers don't want to see the Texans in the playoffs. Jaguars, they'll be fine with it. They're divisional rivals, but they don't really want to face off against that Texans defense. Patriots and the Broncos certainly don't want to have to deal with that. Their quarterbacks don't want to deal with that defense. They can be had. But, it's anybody's game here. To finish things off, we are going to talk about the last 3 teams here. We'll talk about this. Let's talk about the Colts at first. Bubble team, the Colts. There's not much to say about the Colts. They are a bubble team, but the chances of them making the playoffs are slim to none. They got a 15% chance of making the playoffs. They're probably not going to win the division. They need Jacksonville and Houston to lose out for the most part, and they got to win out. They got Phillip Rivers out there doing his very best. It's over. Colts have a great defense. Jonathan Taylor's been crazy this year, but they don't have a quarterback that can help them compete. They have no shot to get to the Super Bowl, and they have little to no shot of making the playoffs now. So that's pretty much it for the Colts. If they somehow sneak into the playoffs, they'll go one and done. They don't have enough. They don't have a quarterback that can take them to the promised land. It is what it is. On to the AFC North. So let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. I think we can do a 2-for-1 here. I don't see either one of these teams going the distance. As a Ravens fan, I can say this with full clarity. I do not see our team going the distance. We can start off with Pittsburgh because they are 8-6 right now, first in the AFC North, and they do have the 4th seed, and they currently have a 61% chance of winning the division. The Pittsburgh Steelers thrashed the Miami Dolphins last night and eliminated them. How do I feel about that game? I have no emotions. I have no feeling when it comes to that. Was that an impressive win? No. That game the Steelers played against the Dolphins was not impressive at all. We can pretend it was. It wasn't impressive. the Ravens on Thursday Night Football took on that very same Dolphins team, thrashed them 28-3. I didn't think that was impressive by the Ravens. The Dolphins are not a good team. Yeah, they won a 4-game winning streak, but overall they were not a good team. And they certainly suck at playing in the cold. We all knew what was going to happen. They came out there, oh, we out here practicing in the snow. You guys are not good in the snow. You're not good in cold, not in snow. You're not just good in cold weather. The Dolphins suck in cold weather, and Tua sucks in cold weather when you need him to be great. We all knew what was going to happen when they went to Pittsburgh. They were going to get thrashed. If this was in Miami, it could have been better. But, hey, Baltimore's game was in Miami, and they still got thrashed there. The Dolphins are just not a good team. I didn't find it impressive when the Ravens beat them 28-3, so I'm not going to find it impressive that the Steelers beat them 28-15. Either way, both teams handled a trash unit. It doesn't change my opinion on the Steelers, and it didn't change my opinion on the Ravens either, so I didn't find that to be impressive at all. The Steelers and Ravens are pretty much one and the same to me. Taking a look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, when you look at their schedule and who they've beaten, they have one impressive win. I'll give you that. Matter of fact, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. They had 2 impressive wins because they were still a good team at the time before Daniel Jones went down. They beat the Colts and they beat the Patriots. It was early on, but they beat the Colts and Patriots. Those are 2 good wins for the Steelers. 2 good wins for the Steelers. Beating the Colts and the Patriots. 2 good wins. But even with that, I still don't look at the Steelers as a legitimate threat. In fact, offensively, they got one of the worst offense in the league. It's in the bottom 10th in total offense. In terms of total yards, they're bottom 10th in total yards. Passing yards, let's see if A-Rod has got that up there. Passing yards, they're, again, within the bottom 10. Yeah, Pittsburgh's offense is within the bottom 10. Total yards within the bottom 10. Passing yards within the bottom 10. Rushing yards also within the bottom 10. They don't have a good offense. Their offensive line is also concerning. They don't have a good offense. The Steelers don't have a good offense. They don't. The only thing that they actually do well, which is surprising, is that they put points on the board. They're averaging 24 points a game. Now, some of that has to do with the fact that their defense has created turnovers for that. We'll talk about the defense in a minute. But yeah, Pittsburgh doesn't have a good offense. They're not going to do anything to any of these playoff teams. They're going to get thrashed by Buffalo. They won't beat Denver. They won't beat New England. This team's not doing anything in the playoffs this year. They'll go one and done the way they've been doing the last few years. This offense is not good enough to beat some of these elite defenses. Not at all. They can't run the ball. What are they going to do against Jacksonville? They can't run the ball. Aaron Rodgers, for much of this year, hasn't been doing well with the passing situation. He's starting to heat up, so maybe it could do something, but, you're beating bad teams. Baltimore's a bad team. Miami's a bad team. You're not going to see that in the playoffs. I don't know what you want me to say. They're beating up on bad defenses, and I'm supposed to believe the Steelers are going to do anything? They're a bottom 10 offense. Defensively, they're fine. Oh, never mind. Defense in total yards defensively, they're in the bottom 10 for total yards. Pass defense in the bottom 10. Rush defense. They actually have a pretty decent rush defense. It's middle of the pack. Actually, it's closer to the bottom 10. They don't have a good defense either. The only thing they do good is take the ball away. They're good at creating takeaways. They're third in the league in takeaways with 24. The only thing this defense knows how to do is take the ball away. They can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. Let's see how they do here. Let's see how they do here. Let's take a look at how they do here. Now, move away from offense real quick. I need to see how they do defensively here. Nope, they suck at that too. They average giving up 30 points a game. The Pittsburgh Steelers average giving up 30 points a game. Really now? Let me take a look at this. Let's see. They gave up 32 to the Jets. They gave up 31 to the Seahawks. They gave up 33 to the Bengals. They gave up 35 to the Packers. They gave up 31 to the Bears. They have 5 games where they have given up 30 plus or more. They're averaging giving up 30 points a game. Pittsburgh doesn't have a good offense. Pittsburgh doesn't have a good defense. They just create a bunch of turnovers, and they take advantage of those takeaways. But there's a reason why they're 8-6? They're not a good football team. They're decent. They're average. They're not a good football team. They're not going to do anything in the playoffs. Not at all. They don't have a single element that you can lean on. They're not good at throwing the ball. They're not good at rushing the ball. They're not good at pass defense. They're not good at rush defense. The only thing that they could potentially lean on is creating takeaways. But how many takeaways can you get on Josh Allen before he still cooks your defense? The Steelers aren't doing anything this year. If they miss the playoffs, it won't matter. If they make the playoffs, it won't matter. They're going one and done. On the flip side, let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens. They're in a similar boat to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Baltimore has been terrible this year. Baltimore has not lived up to the expectations. Right now, this is a 7-7 football team that may not make the playoffs. They got a 40% chance of making the postseason. Baltimore does control their destiny. They win their final 3 games. They make the playoffs. Now, I'll say this, though. Pittsburgh's got Detroit, Cleveland, and Baltimore left. Pittsburgh can at least try to make some noise and garner the attention of people if they can beat the Lions. If the Steelers beat the Lions, maybe people will be willing to change their mind a little bit about Pittsburgh's chance, at least in the first round. Don't see them winning a playoff game, but beating Detroit will be a good thing. Baltimore is in kind of a different situation. Baltimore has been just as average as Pittsburgh this year, if not worse at times. Baltimore is sitting at 7-7. They have not played well this year. However, Baltimore has a chance to at least change the narrative heading into the playoffs. Pittsburgh's 8-6 right now. They have a chance to change things up. Baltimore takes on the New England Patriots on Sunday Night Football. Then they get to play the Green Bay Packers on Saturday at Green Bay, and then they finish off in Pittsburgh. Baltimore has a chance to beat 2 playoff teams. And potentially, 2 playoff teams, and then they get to fight with the Steelers week 18 for the division. If Baltimore wants to change the narrative about them, this is the moment. Baltimore goes 3-0. You beat the Patriots and the Packers, people may change their mind about you. But when you take a look at this Ravens team this year, they have not been great. They have not been great. Lamar this year has missed 5 games. He's missed 5 games. Actually, he might have missed 6 games. Let me see how many games he played this year. Lamar Jackson, because we are 7-7, we have played 14 games. Lamar has missed 6 games this year. So Lamar's missed 6 games. That's going to heavily skew. I can't even look at the offensive stats because Lamar has missed 6 games. And honestly, this was a top 3 offense, and Lamar had the best quarterback. He had the best stats of any quarterback through the first month of football before he went down. Since he's been back, his statistics have not looked great. We know the context that goes into it, but I'm not here to talk about context. I can't speak on context. That has nothing to do with the circumstance that we find ourselves in. Context is not going to help the final result. You deal with what you deal with. As simple as that. Lamar on the season, 2,200 passing yards, 18 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, a QBR of 60, and a passer rating of 101.4. I mean, he's still within the range of, passer rating 101. His passer rating of 101 is still great, but considering the fact that before he got hurt, his passer rating was 130, I don't know what to make of it. He had the best passer rating in football by far. Matter of fact, I think I still have the numbers of what Lamar had prior to the injury. Lamar through the first month of football. Lamar's numbers overall aren't terrible. But when we're talking about what Lamar was prior to the injury, Lamar, prior to the injury, was completing 73% of his passes, 15 touchdowns. Actually, wait, no, sorry. This is the first 5. His first 5 games he played, he was completing that. I'm talking about that includes the Dolphins game. I don't want to include the Dolphins game. I want to speak about the first month of football before he went down with injury, because he was like top 5 and everything. I had the numbers saved somewhere. I just can't seem to. Damn, I had the man's numbers somewhere. I just can't seem to find them. Where the heck are they? Okay, let me go back a little bit here. Sorry, I'm trying to find this man's numbers that he had prior to the injury. I can't seem to find him. He was top 3 in everything. He had the best passer rating in football, like 130. And then he had like 10 touchdowns to 1 interception or something like that. Either way, Lamar had the best stats of any quarterback in football through the first month of the season. He had the best stats of any quarterback through the first month of the season. The Ravens were a top 3 offense, and they were booming. But Lamar missed 6 games, and because he missed 6 games, the offense plummeted immensely without him. It was a night and day. It was night and day in terms of that offense. It was night and day. Anyway, if we want to look at the first 5 games Lamar has played this season, it would be if we want to speak about the Lamar's numbers through the first 5 games he started this season. 73% completion, 73% completion, 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a passer rating 136.7. I mean, this dude was playing like the best quarterback in football. Lamar looked like the best quarterback in football prior to the injury. Baltimore had a top 3 offense prior to the injury. And since he's been back, his numbers have plummeted and the Ravens' scoring has plummeted. And that has played a role as to why the Ravens look the way they do. If we were to take a look at the Ravens' offensive numbers, Baltimore is a middle of the pack this year. Like I said, the numbers have not been great. Lamar misses games, and it's just like, yeah, middle of the pack. In terms of total yards, middle of the pack. Passing yards, they're at the very bottom of the league. Lamar, again, has not played much. They're the bottom 10th of the league in passing yards. Here's an interesting fact. Baltimore is 3rd in the league in rushing yards. Despite everything that's happened, Baltimore is 3rd in the league in rushing yards. They're 3rd in the league. They're also right next to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh averages 24 points a game. Baltimore averages 23.9 points a game. And this is with the inclusion of Lamar missing time. If we want to talk about how much they're averaging with Lamar being there, I mean, we could go back to the games that Lamar has played in. And we could speak more on that. Let me go here. We could speak more on that if we're looking at the game log in terms of the game he's played. First 4 games, the offense put up 41, 41, 30, and then 20. And then, he came back, put up 28. The offense put up 28 against Miami, 27 against Minnesota, 23 against Cleveland, 23 against the Jets, 14 against Cincinnati, 22 against Pittsburgh, and then 24 against, 17 technically, against the Cincinnati Bengals. So the offense has not scored a lot of points since the Miami game, and Baltimore has not eclipsed 30 points since that loss in Week 3 against the Detroit Lions. So they've actually gone a good chunk of the season without putting up 30 points or more. I'm sorry, they hadn't put up 30 points since the Chicago game, and that was Tyler Huntley that played in that game. So they have not had a lot of great looks offensively. The Ravens have not been a great offensive team this year. The second Lamar got hurt, the offense plummeted, and they have yet to recover since he's been back. I don't know if they're going to get to a point where they're going to start scoring a lot of points, but they have yet to recover since Lamar has been back. Looking at the defense, the Ravens' defense this year has not been up to snuff. Ravens' defense is a bottom 10 unit in total yards. In terms of passing yards, the Ravens are a bottom 10 unit. In terms of rushing yards, the Ravens are actually middle of the pack. In terms of points given up, Baltimore actually is also middle of the pack. They're giving up about 23 points a game. Baltimore is just not a good team this year. Baltimore's not a good team. What's going on, Joshua? Baltimore's not a good team. Pittsburgh's not a good team. So it really doesn't matter who wins that division. I don't think they're going to be good enough to get it done. However, Ravens fans, there is a level of optimism if you want to hold on to this. Like I said, the Ravens have the best rushing attack in football. Sorry, that's not the best. They have the 3rd best rushing attack in football. They're 3rd in the league in rushing. They're 3rd in the league in rushing. Take that as you will. They are third in the league in rushing. If they can lean on the run game, if they can make the playoffs and lean on the run game with Derrick Henry and Keaton Mitchell, they got a shot. They got a shot. They got a shot. It comes down to Lamar getting healthy, getting back to 100%, looking like himself, and it comes down to the run game being there. If the offense can return to form and look the way they looked before the injuries, where they were dominating on the ground and through the air, if they can look like that, hey, sky's the limit. They got a shot in the playoffs. But realistically, with the way they've been this season, I don't know if that's going to be the case. I don't even know if you're going to get Lamar to be 100% for the rest of the season. I don't know if we're going to see Lamar 100% moving forward. I just don't see that happening. But that is ultimately the case right now. There is a sparkle of hope. Realistically, Baltimore misses the playoffs or goes out in the first round. There is no in between. But there is a sparkle of hope. They are the third best rushing defense in football. So, not rushing defense, rushing offense. They're the third best rushing offense in football. So if Lamar gets healthy, returns to form, and they lean heavily on the run game, they could do damage against any defense in the AFC. No, Josh. Is there a way that Pittsburgh can clinch? Yeah, Baltimore loses their next 2 games. If Baltimore loses to New England and Green Bay, and Pittsburgh wins their games, they clinch the AFC North. That's the only way. Pittsburgh clinches the AFC North if Baltimore loses their next 2 games and Pittsburgh wins their next 2. If Baltimore wins one of their next 2 games and Pittsburgh wins one of their next 2 games, it comes down to week 18. In fact, the scenario's been put out there. If Baltimore beats the Patriots on Sunday Night Football and the Steelers lose to the Lions, week 17 becomes irrelevant because no matter what happens in that game, nobody can clinch the AFC. It'll come down to week 18 in Pittsburgh. I'm just as pessimistic about the Ravens as you are, and I'm a diehard fan, but if they can stay consistent and play like how they played against the Bengals last Sunday, they have a chance. Dude, I've been saying it this entire time, the last 2 hours, looking at a lot of these teams in the AFC, because it's wide open, it just comes down to consistency. You need for the Broncos, they need consistency from Bo Nix. From the Patriots, they need consistency from Drake May. For the Bills, they need consistency from their defense. For the Chargers, they need consistency from that offense and Justin Herbert at times. For the Jaguars, they need consistency from their offense as well. From Houston, they need consistency from C.J. Stroud. A lot of these teams just need some consistency. But yeah, again, like I said, if there's any sparkle of hope you want to throw out there, I've been reading the numbers all day. The Ravens are third in rushing they're third in rushing. They are third in rushing this year. They are the third best rushing offense in football. They are the third best rushing offense in football. Take that out however you want. They are the third best rushing offense in football. They got this dynamic duo in Keaton Mitchell and Derrick Henry. You use Derrick Henry, you use Keaton Mitchell, Lamar returns to form. You win these final 3 games, you got a shot to go the distance. But that is if we're going to be hopeful. Realistically, I don't think they win all 3 of these games. They're probably going to drop one to either New England on Sunday or they're going to lose to the Packers. Hell, there's a chance they lose both these games and the Steelers clinch the AFC North. There's also a scenario where Pittsburgh loses their next 2 games, Baltimore loses their next 2 games, and it comes down to that final game in Pittsburgh. Hell, there's another scenario where Baltimore wins these 2 games but still losing to Pittsburgh and lose the division. At the end of the day, Baltimore has to win 3 straight to win the AFC North. They got to win 3 straight to win the AFC North. Simple as that. And they must beat Pittsburgh. The Ravens must beat Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh to win the division. And they have not won in Pittsburgh in 5 years. So good luck with that. Baltimore has not won in Pittsburgh in 5 years. They haven't won in Pittsburgh since, I said 5 years. Actually, I think they won in 2020. Let me look. I think they may have won there in 2022. Let me actually check that. Because I remember there was a year we swept them. It might have been 20. Let's see. All right, let me take a look at this. I want to make sure if it's been 5 years. So let's see. At Pittsburgh. What? No, Pittsburgh won at Pittsburgh. These last 3 games, Baltimore has lost, win. At Pittsburgh, they won that game. At Pittsburgh, win. At Pittsburgh. Okay, 2022. So Baltimore beat them 16-14. So yeah, we haven't won in Pittsburgh in 3 years. But we haven't won in Pittsburgh with Lamar in 6 years. That's what it is. So Lamar has not won in Pittsburgh since 2019, and the Ravens haven't won in Pittsburgh since 2022. Because when we won in Pittsburgh, that wasn't Lamar. That's December 11, 2022. Lamar had already gotten hurt at that point because he got hurt against the Broncos. So we won that game against Pittsburgh. Lamar was not the quarterback. I don't know if it was Josh Johnson or Tyler Huntley, but Lamar was not the quarterback that game. Where the Steelers, I can check that right now. Let me take a look at this. Yeah, Tyler Huntley was the quarterback. He was 8 of 12 for 88 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. But Mitchell Trubisky turned the ball over 3 times, and that's why we won the game. Mitchell Trubisky got picked off 3 times by our defense, and that's why we won 16-14. It was a terrible game. Baltimore did take a 10-7 advantage early on. They kicked another field goal to make it 13-7. Nobody did anything in the third quarter. We kicked another field goal to make it 16-7. They scored a touchdown, but again, it was just a day where Mitchell Trubisky was complete garbage. So it's been 3 years. It was Anthony Brown. No, it was Tyler Huntley that game. It was Tyler Huntley. In 2022, it was Tyler Huntley. Unless Anthony Brown also. It was both of them. Okay, so Tyler Huntley and Anthony Brown played. Because Tyler Huntley was 8 of 12, and Anthony Brown was 3 of 5. So we played both quarterbacks. So I guess, did Anthony Brown get the start, and then we went to Tyler Huntley in the second half? Or did Tyler Huntley get the start, and we went to Anthony Brown in the second half? Either way, somebody got the start in that game, and then both quarterbacks played. Anthony Brown and Tyler Huntley played in that game. So maybe it's a situation because Anthony Brown is 3 of 5. He was 3 of 5 in that game. So I would have to assume 3 of 5 for 16 yards. So I would have to assume Anthony Brown got the start and either he got hurt or he was benched and they brought in Tyler Huntley. Either way, the Ravens haven't won in Pittsburgh in 3 years, and they have not won a game in Pittsburgh with Lamar Jackson in 6 years. The last time they won was 2019. That's the only year Lamar has won in Pittsburgh. The only time Lamar won in Pittsburgh was in 2019. So Huntley was a starter. He got hurt. Anthony Brown came in. All right, cool. I knew one of them was the starter. Both quarterbacks did play in that game. One was starting. The other ended up coming in. Either way, right, the Ravens have not won in Pittsburgh in 3 years, and they have not won in Pittsburgh with Lamar Jackson in 6 years. So good luck. They have to beat Pittsburgh to win the division. So yeah, like I've been saying, Pittsburgh and Baltimore have been average teams this year. I don't really have much to say about them. If they sneak into the playoffs, I don't have any hope or optimism that either one of these teams can do anything. If you want to have some blind hope as a Ravens fan, the Ravens are 3rd in the league in rushing. If they lean on their run game, they lean on Derrick Henry, they lean on Keaton Mitchell, and Lamar gets healthy and returns to form, they can shock the world and potentially go on a run. Also, this defense, if they can be as consistent as they were against the Cincinnati Bengals, they can also go on a run. But I don't trust the Ravens, and I don't think they're going to get it done. I'm not even sure they're going to make the playoffs. I would love for them to prove me wrong. I'll be here to celebrate. I want to be wrong about this team, but they haven't shown me anything this year that would make me think they're going to go on a run. They haven't been consistent enough. So Pittsburgh and Baltimore, whoever wins that division is going out in the first round. That's all that matters. Anyway, that is it for the AFC. We spent 2 hours talking about the AFC. Wow. We are really going through time today. Let's actually see if we can kind of cut it short a little bit and make it an hour for the NFC. I want to talk about all these teams, but we spent a little bit too much on the AFC, even though we kind of knew how the picture was going to go. So let's switch over to the NFC, and let's start with the number 1 seeded Rams, who are at 11-3. What can I say about the Rams? What can I actually say about the Rams? Like, realistically here, what can I say about the Rams? This is my team. This is my Super Bowl pick. I said this last year. Last year, I said the Rams could be the team to beat and that they were the biggest threat to the Eagles. They were. They just lost to the Eagles. If a certain person would have made a block, if I don't know who the offensive lineman was. But if that person would have made a block on Jalen Carter, the Rams would have gone to the Super Bowl. There was a wide open receiver in Stafford. If he had time. If Stafford had time. Oh, who's my dark horse and favorite in the AFC? I got Denver going to the Super Bowl. My dark horse team is Houston. Houston has the best defense in football. They're top 5 in pass defense. They're top 5 in rush defense. They're number 1 in takeaways. Sorry, they're not number 1 in takeaways. They're number 1 in scoring defense, and they're top 5 in takeaways. They got the best defense in football. Nobody wants to see Houston in the playoffs. If C.J. Stroud is consistent, the Texans can go far. They got the best defense in football. You don't want to face off against them. They do everything well. They stop the run. They guard the pass. They create turnovers. A lot of them. You're not scoring on them. They're averaging giving up 16 points a game. They got the best defense in football. If that defense shows up come playoff time and CJ Stroud's consistent, they can go the distance. They can beat any of these teams. The AFC's wide open. My dark horse team is the Texans. I would love to see them get to the Super Bowl if Baltimore can't. If not, Denver's going to get to the Super Bowl. That's my pick. On to the NFC. Again, what is there to say about the Rams? The Rams were my team to beat in the NFC last year. I said they were a team that was the biggest threat to the Philadelphia Eagles last year. They were, and like I said, if that freaking guard could have blocked Jalen Carter, then the Rams would have won that game because Stafford had an open receiver and didn't have time to throw them. He did not have time to throw to him. So it's because Stafford didn't have time to throw for him and Carter got to Stafford, that game ends right there. If Stafford has time, he sees a wide open receiver, that's a touchdown. And I don't know if Jalen Hurts in that offense is going to go the distance down the field to go win the game in that snowy tundra. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe you get another long distance run from Saquon in that game because he already had one. Maybe he breaks it for another touchdown to win the game. Who knows? But the Rams were the biggest threat to them last year. They are the biggest threat to them this year. And I also picked the Rams this year to be the team to beat and the team I believe could get to the Super Bowl. And I'm glad to see that is ultimately the case. As soon as I saw them add Devontae Adams, I said this was going to be the team that could get to the Super Bowl. And here we are, 11-3, best record in the NFC. Let's actually take a look at the Rams here. What can we say about the Rams? The Rams beat the Texans. The Rams beat the Jaguars. The Rams beat the Niners. The Rams beat the Seahawks. The Rams beat the Lions. The Rams have had quality win after quality win. The Rams have had big win after big win. The Rams have beaten multiple playoff teams. What else is there for me to say? This team has been the most consistent. The only real blemish, actually there's two real blemishes on the Rams this year. The two real blemishes on the Rams this year. Actually, no, they got three blemishes, and their three losses are their blemishes. They choked an 18-point lead. They choked an 18-point lead to Philadelphia. They lost to an injury-riddled Niners team, and they somehow lost to the Panthers. Those were three nasty blemishes. They're not perfect, which is why the Rams can be beaten in the NFC. However, with the way they've played this year and the way Matthew Stafford's played this year, let's start with him. Matthew Stafford this year is your leading candidate for MVP. Matthew Stafford, 3,700 passing yards, 37 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, a QBR of 69.7, and a passer rating, let me check this, and a passer rating of 112. What are we talking about here? Which is the best in his career by far. He's never had a passer rating this high. What are we talking about here? Matthew Stafford's the MVP. The Rams are the best team in the NFC. They've had quality win after quality win after quality win. Now, they have blemishes just like every other team. You know, they lost the game to Carolina they shouldn't have lost. If Carolina wins the division, maybe we look at that loss differently. If Carolina wins the NFC South, we may look at that game differently. But they lost to Carolina, they lost to an injury-riddled Niners team, and they choked an 18-point lead to Philadelphia. Those are three things that you can look at that shows that the Rams are vulnerable. The Rams are absolutely vulnerable, no question. But when you take a look at their offense, they got the second best offense in football in terms of total yards. Total yards, they rank second. Passing yards, they rank second. Rushing yards, they rank eighth. They're eighth in rushing yards. They're second in passing yards. They're second in total yards. In terms of points, they're second in the league. They average 30 points a game. They average 30 points a game. The Rams average 30 points a game. They've got the second best offense in the league. They have a highly explosive offense in the league. Defensively, this is where things can get a bit shaky. And I think you look at this and say, okay, not our best look, but it's still not bad. It's right there with Buffalo. They rank 13th. They got the 13th best defense. In terms of total yards, they rank 13. In terms of passing yards, they're actually pretty bad at covering the pass. They give up a lot of passing yards. They're in the bottom half of the league. In terms of run defense, they are also in the bottom half of the league. They are not good at stopping the run. And they're actually, wait, no. They're actually ninth in run defense. Excuse me. So they're in this. They're in the middle of the road / bottom half in terms of pass defense, but they rank ninth in rushing defense. In terms of scoring defense, they're fourth in the league. They average giving up 18 points a game. So it seems like they're more of a bend but don't break type defense. They'll give up a good chunk of passing yards, but they stop the run well and they don't give up a lot of points. Also, when it comes to takeaways here, the Rams rank. They rank 6th. Sorry, they rank 7th. No, they rank 6th. Yeah, they rank 6th in the league. They have 21 takeaways this year. They rank 6th in the league. So you've got a defense. You got a defense in LA that's that's right up there with Buffalo. Buffalo's defense struggles. But only difference I'll say is Buffalo has they're the third worst run defense in the league, but they actually are top 5 in pass defense. So they're great at stopping the pass, terrible at stopping the run. The Rams, they're decent at stopping the pass, and they're good at stopping the run. They also don't give up a lot of points, whereas the Bills, they do give up a good chunk of points. So I think when you look at it, the Rams have a good defense. They have an elite offense and a really good defense. Again, they're just playing some crazy, crazy football. I don't really like their defense. I don't love their defense, but I love what Matthew Stafford's giving me, and I love their offense. Matthew Stafford in the offense is the reason why I'm picking this team to ultimately be the team to go to the Super Bowl. However, there is a team I think can stop them, and we'll talk about them relatively soon. Either way, Rams, they're my Super Bowl pick. Not much to say past there. I believe in what they have showed me this year. And again, they have multiple impressive wins this year. Let's move on to the number 2 seed in the NFC. Who saw this coming? The Chicago Bears are the number 2 seeded team in the NFC this year. Who would have thought? Now, you may look at Chicago and you may not think they're impressive, but when you look at where they rank, I feel like we can at least try to give them some credit here. Now, I already know what people are going to say about Chicago. They have not played anybody significant. And when they have not really fared the best. The Chicago Bears are 10-4 in the season. They've got wins against the Cowboys, the Raiders, the Commanders, the Saints, the Bengals, the Giants, the Vikings, the Steelers, the Eagles, and the Browns. When you take a look at that list, the only impressive win is the Philadelphia Eagles. And as we are starting to notice, a lot of teams are starting to get off. Some of these teams that have beaten the Eagles, their most impressive win is against Philadelphia. So we're starting to question Philadelphia as a team right now in terms of how good they really are. Teams are starting to get wins off of that squad. But yeah, the most impressive win here for Chicago is against Philadelphia. The second most impressive win is against the Steelers. They haven't had a lot of great competition. But hey, look at this. I talked about this with Baltimore. Baltimore has a chance. They're average to bad team. They have a chance to prove that they could be competitive in this playoffs if they win their final 3 games. They got New England, they got Green Bay, they got Pittsburgh. Baltimore goes 3-0. That's a statement for them. Heading into the playoffs, that will be a statement for them that says we can actually compete in the playoffs. It's wide open. We're a team to be dealt with, and we can be an enforcer and a dangerous team in the postseason. Let them win these final 3 games, and we can assess the Ravens in a different way. As of right now, they're an average team. I don't even know if they're going to make the playoffs. I doubt it. And even if they do, first-round exit. But if they win these final 3 games, they at least make somewhat of a statement. I feel like Chicago is in the same situation, not to make a statement of we are a team that's average, but we want to make a statement that we're legit. No, this is a team that's been good, has a chance to win the division, and this is their opportunity right now. They've got the Packers, Niners, and Lions to end the season. This is where you make your statement, Chicago. Your most impressive win on the season is against Philadelphia. Nobody's buying into Chicago. Nobody believes Chicago's for real. Nobody looks at them as a legitimate team. Your final 3 games, you are going up against Green Bay, at San Francisco, and you're going up against Detroit. Keep this in mind. Keep this in mind. You lost to the Packers. You lost to the Lions the first time. The Lions blew you out. You lost 52-21 against the Lions, and you lost 28-21 against the Packers. If you want to prove yourself Chicago, you want people to look at you differently, you've got the Packers, Niners, and Lions to finish off the season. Go beat them. You're going to be a playoff team. But if you want people to look at you differently, go beat them. Go beat those 3 teams, and I promise you, you will be seen as a legitimate threat heading into the postseason. Because those would be 3 impressive wins. You beat those 3 teams, those are 3 impressive wins. You lose to those 3 teams, you'll be 10-7, you'll make the playoffs, but nobody will buy into you. You will be a first-round exit in everybody's mind. You want to make a statement, Chicago? Now's your time. Go get some impressive wins. You have the opportunity. In terms of where the Bears rank this year, they're actually top 5. They have a top 5 offense. In terms of total yards, they rank 5th. In terms of passing yards, they're middle of the pack, around 14. In terms of rushing yards, they have the 2nd best rushing attack in football. Buffalo's 1, Chicago's 2, Baltimore's 3. They have the 2nd best rushing attack in football. That's what Chicago has. In terms of offense, they're the 9th best offense in the league. They are averaging 26 points a game. So you got a Bears offense that's a top 3 rushing attack, top 15 passing unit, top 10 in scoring offense. That means something. Defensively, Chicago, not that good. Bottom 10 defensive team. In terms of pass defense, they're middle of the pack, closer to the bottom 10. In terms of rushing defense, bottom of the pack. They're not good. They don't have a great defense. But again, just like some of these other defenses that aren't great, you know what Chicago does well? Takeaways. They lead the league in takeaways. 21 interceptions and 9 fumbles recovered. The Chicago Bears do not have a great defense. They have a great offense. They got a really good offense, a really productive offense. They don't have a great defense. But this defense creates a lot of takeaways. They're going to need that if they're going to make noise in the playoffs. This defense is not going to be making a lot of stops. So what you're going to need from Chicago, is a defense that's going to create a lot of turnovers. That's what you're going to need from Chicago. That's absolutely what you're going to need from Chicago. If you can't get that from Chicago, if your defense cannot create turnovers, you're just not going to win. I would love to say more about their chances, but I think they have to make a statement these last 3 weeks. As of right now, they're a good team. They're a playoff team, but they're not going the distance. You got 3 games left. Beat Green Bay, beat San Francisco, beat Detroit. You shut up all the haters. You silence all the critics, and you will